Oh shoot, I'm not playing Planet Crafter. And boom, we're here. Hello. Lumaki rain. Oh no. That's gotta stop. I have audio? No way. Whatever, I fixed it. Sorry the weather's bad here. Welcome to the kitchen. Oh, down a dark alleyway. In the back, you find a little hole in the wall. And maybe, just maybe, it's serving exactly what you want. Hello, I am Theway. I am that furry food. Today, I made pizza last week, and I'm gonna do it again this week. One, because I love pizza. I'll make pizza. I'll have pizza once a week, every week. Oh, baby girl is attacking a spring. Good for her. Kitty Artemis. But let us figure out what is it that we're watching first, and hopefully my audio will cooperate. Take a look at. I kind of know. You know what? Fuck it. It's right here, and I want to know. So, a brand of flour that I particularly like is King Arthur Baking Company. They make some great baking products. They have brought things like Double-Lot pizza flour and like more esoteric flours. They brought them to the grocery store in a way that's much more common. I also just like that they don't tend to have a lot of junk in their flour. Like, I know that's like a stereotypical person looking for high quality stuff to say. But yeah, like if you look at their flour, it's like milled wheat. Like, I don't need much more than that. There's just, I think other brands, they can sell for cheaper because they have less shrink. And in that end, they don't need to they make products that are very, very shelf stable for a long period of time without discernible, noticeable effects. Which I get. It lets them sell more stuff for a lower price, which is useful. But also sometimes I want to taste what something tastes like if it just has what I intend in it. Where are we? Let's see if I do this. If I hit play.
And then I'll show you how to eat it. I'll show you how to spill it all over my clothes. Hey folks, Martin here in the studio today making our Neapolitan style pizza crust. We're using 00 flour. It's tender, but it puffs well in the oven. It gives us that classic Neapolitan edge crust. Let's make some pizzas.
Now I'm interested to see, most people don't attempt to make Neapolitan baking videos for a home oven.
There are two things, though, that I want to just note before I start. First is that I'm using 00 pizza flour. This is flour that is specifically...
So we'll listen to him talk about Double-Lot pizza flour. Neapolitan style pizza is one that is built for a wood oven. So it's built for an oven that's very, very, very hot, that cooks super fast. Like, a lot of Neapolitan pizzas cook like 90 seconds to 2 minutes. That's it. Like very, very fast. Which is just not something you can do in your home oven. If you're lucky, if you've got a really nice home oven, your oven goes up to 600. Most of us have maybe one that goes up to 550. I only have one that goes up to 500 right now. So, just saying, I'm interested to see where he goes with it.
Before I start, first is that I'm using 00 pizza flour.
Double-Lot?
This is flour that is specifically...
Don't say Double-Lot. I was gonna say, you say double lot when you're referring to something that's like a gun gauge, like ammo. 00 is what people say. People say 00.
Milled and designed to be used for pizza making. You can also use it for focaccia and some other things too. This is a white flour, similar to all-purpose, but with an even finer milling, producing a tender, crisp crust. I love 00 for making pizza.
Yeah, it's super fine.
But if you don't have it, all-purpose is an okay substitute, all right? The second thing is just a note about the timing of the recipe. This is one of those recipes where you mix on day 1 and you bake on day 2, okay?
Okay.
You mix the dough, it ferments overnight, and then you divide, round, shape, and bake on day 2. And the reason for that is that with time comes flavor. Time is the secret ingredient in all bread dough. It's not on the label, but it's in the flavor.
It is
time to make really good, delicious dough. So try the flour, and I hope you like this method. So let's get to the mix. And as always, all of the recipe is down there in the link below. Check it out. Look around.
So what he's referring to there is that anything that you can do to slow down yeast. If you look at an amount of yeast and you make it work for longer, it will give you a more complex flavor. And it does that by creating more of the byproducts that yeast work with. So yeast makes, notably, they make ester alcohols. I should, well, what are the byproducts? Does yeast produce during fermentation? Okay, role of yeast in fermentation by the National Institutes of Health. Wow. Hold on, you guys. I would just hate to deprive you of this. Fermentation is a well-known natural process. Look at this shit. Glucose, and it's going to break down hexose transporter. I have no idea what that is. I know that you can break down glucose into fructose and sucrose. Yeah, damn. Dihydroxyacetone. There you go. That's probably a little bit of the ethanol, acetyl alcohols, ethyl alcohols. So it produces 2 ethanol and 2 CO2. Under absence or oxygen limited conditions, ethanol is produced from acetaldehyde and 2 moles of ATP are generated. ATP? This is not a fully satisfactory reaction for cells. They have to consume high amounts of glucose to deliver enough ATP to the system. As a consequence, ethanol is accumulated. ATP is acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde? I need to see somebody. You know what? Here we go. Just. You know what? Here. How to pronounce. I have to spell pronounce right. Renown. Yeah?
The reaction occurs with water, say the formation of a hydrate, like we saw in acetaldehyde, where the equilibrium...
Acetaldehyde.
Instead of having ethanol, which it can change into acetaldehyde,
acetaldehyde or acetaldehyde. I like it. Anyway, it produces acetal products. I don't know enough to say if those are alcohols. Ethanol's alcohol. You know, in that term. What cooks mean by alcohols. Anyway, it produces stuff. And it makes things smell yeasty and fermented. So all of that. You get more of that and more complex of that the longer you make yeast work for you. Now, yeast is only going to work so long for a couple of things. Yeast does multiply rapidly, but eventually it's going to run out of food. Or also eventually, when you're fermenting things like beer, I don't know how much this happens in like bread, but you produce enough ethanol that you've produced an environment that yeast cannot survive in. And the yeast will start dying off. Don't know that you'll definitely get to the point where yeast stops fermenting. Like if you overproof your bread and you put it down, it's not gonna keep going. You'll run out. But so you can use smaller amounts of yeast and let it work for longer, or you can make your dough and you can put the yeast somewhere very cold, not frozen, at a temperature that it can live, but at a temperature that it works much more slowly. So I think he's probably going to do that. Based on what he said, it sounds like he's going to combine all of these into one totally done dough. Has all the ingredients, but then he's going to stick it in the fridge for like 18 hours.
You'll find it. So 00 in the bowl, a very small amount of yeast. Because this dough ferments for 12 to 24 hours, it's just a very small amount, 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then we've got a half teaspoon of sugar. The sugar will help with a little bit of extra browning
sugar
crust.
Interesting.
And then some salt, because everything is better with salt. Salt also has a functional role in the bread dough environment. It controls fermentation a little bit. Without the salt, the yeast move more quickly, the dough rises more quickly, it develops less strength, so make sure the salt's in there.
Yeast kills dough. Pardon me, salt kills yeast.
This water is lukewarm.
So you got to be careful.
But in the summer, if
how
your
much you
kitchen
add.
is hot, you may not need to warm it up. In the winter, if your kitchen is really cool, then definitely use lukewarm. It will make a difference. And then you just stir to combine. This is a soft dough, okay? It's a pretty soft dough. We want that.
Based on the amount that he added, I'm going to imagine then that he is not going to put this in the fridge. And then the next question will be whether or not he leaves this out all night and then adds more flour and water to it tomorrow.
Because this soft dough is going to help us have a nice puffy edge crust.
No, that's dough. That's not a poolish. That's
dough. You're not going to get this out on the counter to knead it. You are just pressing, turning, pressing, making sure that it.
So there are things called pre-ferments, which is another way to get more, give your yeast more oomph, let your yeast work for longer. And by that, you're going to put like a tiny amount of yeast in a mixture of flour and water, but the flour and water mixture is usually like 100% hydration. It's 1-to-1. It's very wet. Which in many cases, like most people wouldn't call that dough. And then you add more flour and a little less water the next day, so you end up with something more traditionally hydrated in like the 75% range. Oh man, I'd have to explain to somebody what hydration percent is. if anybody's watching this and wants to know what when you're making any type of bread, especially pizza, there is baker's hydration percent, which is you take your total amount of flour in weight, and then what percentage of that weight are you adding to what percentage of that weight in water are you adding to the mix? So I'll tell you what. Let's not get too excited. Let's watch and stop. Let's watch and see what he does.
Well combined, and that's it. Pizza dough's done. Literally, so easy. And now we're going to cover it, and we're going to let it rest for 12 to 24 hours, and then we'll go to the divide, shape, and bake.
You're going to
So this is the dough
divide
I mixed
that.
yesterday evening. It's had a little bit over 12 hours, probably going on like maybe 16 hours, something like that. You take the cover off a dough like this, and I immediately smell something that you might perceive as like bread flavoring, or it smells like bread. When you take the lid off, it smells yeasty.
Smells yeasty.
And that's why we have that long fermentation process, is because it develops flavor. The only way to get that flavor is through time. You can't shortcut it. You can't shortcut it. So let's divide it and put a little bit of flour on top.
You can't shortcut it. You can, sort of, but only to a certain degree. You can add more yeast and give more yeast less time to work. It still needs some, but you can get it down to like 60 or 90 minutes. Which is going to be a dough that's less complex. It'll still work, but the flavor and texture will be a little less complex.
And then with my flexible scraper, I just go in and sort of release the dough from the bowl. You can see that the dough has a dry side, which was floured. The floury side was just touching the bench. And then the top side, which is pretty sticky. If I touch it with my hand, it's going to stick. So a little bit of flour on the top side. And then we can divide 2 equal pieces. If you feel like just eyeballing it, you can do that. Just cut it in 2. Or if you want to measure it and get them really accurate, it's about 200 grams a piece, I think. This dough is very relaxed.
200 grams.
It's soft. And so you're not going to want to overhandle it. It's going to stick to you. So let me show you. I'm just going to fold it a little bit. I'm going to fold the sides to the middle. I'm going to turn it. I'll fold the sides to the middle. And then I'll just bring the corners in to make it a little bit more of a round form, because we want the pizza to be round, right? So just round it a little bit.
So he's making some extra gluten there.
This is 200 grams. It's a good size for the home oven. And that's often what people will do in restaurants too for, say, a 9 or 10 inch pizza in diameter, 200 to 225 or 250 grams. So we're going to give these a little bit of a rest.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
the dough has
a fairly small pizza.
Probably 45 minutes, could have been an hour, may have been a little bit longer. So from this point on, I'm going to be relatively gentle with the pizza. I'm going to press it into shape, stretch it a little bit, we'll put it on the peel, and we'll top it and load it. In order to shape it, I'm going to start just inside this sort of edge crust. I'm looking at the edge of this piece of dough, and I kind of don't want to touch that because I want the pizza to have a little bit of a handle crust, a little bit of an edge crust to it. So I move to the middle of the dough, and I'm just going to press, and I'm leaving about maybe a half-inch border, maybe a little bit less. And a lot of the work of this shaping is going to be done just by pressing. I don't need to pick it up. I don't need to do anything.
Hopefully he'll go into this, but another thing that you should pay attention to is, and he's doing it there, he's mostly pressing out the edges and not pressing down the center so much. And that's because as you stretch, that's the part that's going to get the thinnest. That's the part where it'll tear on you. So you compensate by leaving extra dough material in the middle of the pizza before you stretch it.
Else.
He didn't really say that, but he is doing it.
2/3 of the way there right now, and I'm just going to make sure that it's not adhered to the bench. And then if I feel like it needs a little bit more, I can come back and just on the back of my hand, using the weight of the dough, I'll just
using like the hand over hand method.
So I'm just letting it stretch.
I mean, this is
dough,
a very small pizza.
Crust. You'll see that my fingers are just inside that edge. I'm not grabbing it by the edge proper. And that's because, like I said, in this Neapolitan style of pizza making, we want to have a little bit of a puffy edge crust. And so I'm just gently stretching until I feel like I have a round that's in the 10 to 12 inch range, something like that.
My experience, 200 grams will be more like 10 inch.
Pizza is on a wooden peel. A dough won't stick to this as easily as it will to the metal to a certain degree. Metal is great for unloading, but my preference is to load off wood and then unload with metal. That's just me. The second thing I want to talk about is how you sort of prepare the peel. Now, you could use semolina here, or you could use flour. Just don't use too much of either, okay? Because anything that's extra will end up on your baking stone or steel, and it'll just burn, okay? So
yeah, so
just enough, but not
it doesn't
too much.
end up in the
That's a tough
pizza.
sort of line to find, but with experience, you'll sort that out.
Yeah, like it'll make like your oven smell like it burned a little bit, but who cares? I don't want the pizza to stick.
If you're new to pizza and you're new to sort of loading and how that...
In my experience, it doesn't matter. You can chew like within reason. You can. I literally see people like dip the dough in either cornmeal or semolina flour. I've done that and it's fine.
Pizza launch goes, I would recommend parchment. And we're ready to...
You can use parchment if you want. Parchment can handle it.
Once you have the dough on the peel, the clock is ticking. You want to be mindful of not letting this dough rest on the peel for too long because it will stick. If you leave it, it will stick. And everybody knows how well...
Yeah, but you don't have to like paddle.
Problems. We've got a good video on some tips for loading pizza. Be sure to check that out.
Really,
it's part of your learning.
Saucing that pretty heavy for a Neapolitan.
With basic pie. A little bit of tomato, a little bit of cheese. I like to think of pizza as sort of garnished dough. It's dough with a garnish on it. So, be gentle with the toppings. Don't go too heavy. Let that delicious dough shine. And then I've got a little bit of a garlic oil. This is just fresh garlic with a little bit of olive oil and a pinch of salt. That's all it is. I'll do one more jiggle. Are we good? Yep. Let's load.
Yeah, toppings on a Neapolitan style pizza are real light. Real light.
This is a good bake. I like a bake that has a pie where it doesn't sort of get floppy on you, The Neapolitan style will have a more droopy tip to it, which is fine, and that's sort of normal for this style as opposed to like a New York style, which has that no dip tip, as they say. But we'll let this sit for just a second. If you have some basil and you want to add some of that, this would be the time to do it. The hallmark of this Neapolitan style is a puffy open edge crust, right? Because of the way we handled it and because of the good flour, because of the hot...
Quit waving your knife around, bro.
We've achieved that, so... Was it hot? It's like super hot. It's pretty warm. If you take the time to make a good crust, people will actually eat it because it's flavorful. It's got so much flavor from that long fermentation.
I'll eat it if you don't.
The sauce is really good. Good cheese on there. The garlic's coming through.
I'm a fat dog.
Is that it's a good bread dough topped with delicious toppings. You can do anything from this mushroom pie with a hot pepper sauce to a classic margarita with a little bit of basil tomato sauce. Everything is delicious. I love this pizza flour. I love crust puffs.
Bro, we gonna talk about what that nuclear yellow sauce was? We gonna talk about that, bro? You wanna go back to that one? That was kind of intense. He called it a hot chili sauce. What chilies are yellow? I mean, there's some chilies that get yellow when they're overripe.
Oh, get out there and make some pizza. This is our Neapolitan style pizza crust. Long fermented, delicious. Hey, thanks for joining us. Be
okay. That one's interesting. in that he makes his dough in its entirety and lets it sit in its entirety for like 14 hours. That's really interesting. I mean, the obvious benefit is lack of complexity. Like, you're skipping steps. It's not that hard. But if you're gonna... trying to think, like, if a Polish has a... A Polish is a type of pre-ferment. If it has a benefit over that. Because I think a Polish does. Because essentially, you're gonna create a starter, for lack of a better term. I hesitate to call it a starter because a sourdough starter is way more complex than this. And also, a sourdough starter is a colony of multiple yeasts, wild yeasts, and using store-bought yeast is the exact opposite. It's a monoculture. It is exactly one type of yeast that works really, really well. And like, you can't even mix them, because if you mix the two, the store-bought yeast will just like totally outcompete the wild yeast. Yeah, it's just wild like that. So what do you... I still think so. If you can imagine, you're creating a premix of a little bit of yeast, a lot of water with the same amount of flour. So it's very wet. Like, it's not a dough yet, or by most standards, it's not a dough yet. It's too wet. And then 6 hours ahead of time, I'm gonna feed that starter with a whole bunch more flour, and I'm gonna juice it with some warm water. So by warm, I mean 105 degrees. I'm a bitch. Like, especially this time of year in my kitchen is warmer than room temperature. Yeah, so I think the benefit of the way that they're doing it there is lack of complexity. Like, it's throw the shit in the bowl in the ratios that he tells you, leave it sit, and you will have a pizza at the end. And it will be better. It will be better than a 1 hour dough by a lot. It'll be better than a 1 hour dough. Like, you totally, it's a totally viable way to do it. This is a good, like, intermediate pizza. Damn. What are we doing next, boys and girls? I was gonna go do all of Kenji's pizza, because I actually haven't seen Kenji make much pizza. So a year ago, that was 4 years ago. All right. Screw it. If there was anybody else here, I'd go in the order, but let's do same day New York pizza. Oh, is this on the boat?
Hey everyone, it's Kenji. We're gonna make some New York style pizza with a
No, not on the boat yet.
Easy New York style dough recipe.
What a look! Oh my God! Look at the boy! Look at the boy! Is that like a Shih Tzu? He's so fluffy. Got little winkles. I love him. Well, now I don't want to search. There's a cute dog. This isn't fair. OXO scale. None of those are OXO. Excuse me. Brands OXO. I said OXO. Good grips. Did I have that at one point? I had something like that at one point. £11 scales, pretty hefty. That looks to be the max that they have. Yeah, dude, like you need to be hauling mail that need more than 11 pounds. $50, huh? Sell me on it. So I like that. Yeah, also mine has weird measurements. Like my digital scale, when you click on it, one of the options is milliliters. And it's like, girl, how are you measuring milliliters by weight? I presume you mean by average weight of water? Which, like, what if I'm not measuring water? It just, like, not something I'm looking for in a scale. I don't need you to do milliliters. So this only had 4, and I'm only going to use 2 of them. I'm going to use pounds and ounces, and what did it say? Ounce, pounds. I'm going to use ounces and grams. And I'll be real, the only reason that I use ounces at all is when I'm dieting, a lot of things list servings of how many calories of certain types of food by ounces. If they all did it by grams, I wouldn't use ounces for anything. Ounces are a super dumb measurement. I like that. I like that the plate removes. I like that a lot. I might have to save that. And also, I forgot to check. Jump to more product details. It claims to be accurate within 1/10 of a gram. No, accurate within a gram. 1/10 of an ounce or a gram. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's certainly accurate enough within baking for me. Yeah, plus or minus a gram doesn't matter for anything that I bake. I'm going to add that to an Amazon wish list. My eternal hope that people buy me things. Because I enjoy things. I enjoy kitchen things more than a lot of things.
So first thing, I'm going to start with a scale. Using a scale is important when baking because
yes.
volume measurements just are not precise enough.
Yes.
So like measuring a cup of flour could weigh anywhere from 100 grams up to 180 grams, depending on how you scoop it or measure it. So always use a scale for this. So I'm starting with 500 grams of all-purpose flour.
That also eliminates
a little bit of a sturdier crust. A little bit something more bread.
It also eliminates. In most cases, I don't sift flour anymore. Unless I'm making a super fine cookie, in which case it might have cake flour. I'll sift that, but that's about all I sift anymore. I don't sift almost anything.
ready, a little chewier. But I
like when I was growing up, I sifted everything.
500 grams. This is going to make enough dough for two 16-inch pies. Relatively thin 16-inch pies.
16?
Slightly thicker, like 14-inch pies. But this will be enough for at least two pizzas. So 500 grams.
At 500 grams?
Close enough.
Yeah. No. That's right. Because I use recipes sometimes by Ken Forkish. Ken Forkish is, first of all, what a great name for a person in the food industry. Secondly, he's got really great recipes, but he's a commercial baker. And by that I mean he owns a bakery where you can go in and buy bread. It is artisan, and it is not wood fired. He wanted to do a wood fired thing, but it is a commercial bakery with they're gonna make you really, really good quality artisan bread. And he's like, this is for home, and his recipes are all in a kilogram, 1,000 grams of flour. So that will make you 5 12-inch pizzas. So I was just thinking, he's like 500 and two of them 16. And I was like, whoa, but then I mathed. As if 1,000 makes 5, so that's like 200 grams for a 12-inch pizza. So he's saying 250 grams of flour will make a 16-inch very thin crust pizza. Okay. I'm game. Let's play.
This is King Arthur flour, by the way.
Fuck yeah.
Whatever flour you want. I've done this with gold metal. It works just fine. We're going to do 12.5 grams of salt.
Just doing kosher from the box.
2.25%.
He's the reason I have a salt box.
2.5%. The percentage, by the way, is called a baker's percentage, and it's basically everything. You weigh everything as a percentage of the total amount of flour. So if we're starting with 500 grams of flour, we add 2.5% of that in salt, which is 12.5 grams. We're going to do 2 grams of yeast here.
2 grams. Okay, so he's not making this today.
Which is roughly 0.5%. I'm going to be. It doesn't matter too much. You don't have to be too precise here. That went a little over. That's fine. This is instant yeast, by the way. You want to use instant yeast for this, or quick rise. They call it.
So there are 2 types of yeast. There's instant and active dry. Near as I can tell, there's no good reason to use active dry anymore. It is not more shelf stable. It is not more productive. And in point of fact, in many cases, it is less predictable than instant yeast. I think there maybe used to be... People used to have a real preference. Like, active dry ruled the land. Like in my grandma's day and in my mom's day. But like these days, there is no difference. Most people, professionals that I follow that are in the know, have completely quit using active dry for anything. It's all instant yeast these days.
Rapid rise. I'm going to add.
It's either labeled rapid rise or instant. Those are the same thing. This is so interesting.
For same day dough, adding a little sugar is going to help sort of feed that yeast a little bit so it rises a little faster, a little more effectively. It's also going to help the dough color a little bit more. So generally, if you let a dough come together and then you let it rest, let it ferment in the fridge, cold ferment for a few days, it's going to brown better, and it's going to obviously, the yeast is going to have a little more time to work on it. The longer you ferment a dough, the better it browns. So a younger dough like this that you're going to use the same day, adding a little bit of sugar to it is going to help it brown a little more effectively.
So he is also going for what appears to be shortening here, and it is Crisco, which means it's butter flavored shortening. It is totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. But it should note he does this for his New York style pizza, which is what he's calling this. This is an enriched dough. And what that means is it has something added to it beyond the base ingredient. So he's added sugar, which I believe as soon as you added sugar, it becomes an enriched dough. But even more, one of the big things that you add that makes me immediately go, oh, this is an enriched dough, is either a fat, so olive oil, or in this case, he's going to do shortening, or dairy, which really, if you can think about it, dairy is just fat with extra steps. But if you're making something like a brioche, you're going to add butter into the dough. For certain rolls, you'll use milk or sometimes cream. For some pizza doughs, you'll use olive oil, which makes it an enriched dough, and then he's going to use here, looks like shortening.
Effectively. All right, and so now we're going to add 20 grams here. It's 4%. I'm doing vegetable shortening. You could also use olive oil. Oops, that's a little too much. You could use olive oil. You could use corn oil. You could probably use butter or lard. I've never tried that.
Well, you're using vegetable shortening, bro. You could use lard.
I'm going to keep this one a little bit extra fatty today. So what the fat does is that it interferes, so there's this balance in play going on in the dough between sort of, gluten development, which is the protein structure in there that's going to give it its texture and its chew. But if you have too much of that, it can be a little too tough. And so when you add fat, it kind of coats some of the flour, it interferes with the gluten formation, and therefore makes the dough a little more tender. So fattier doughs, so something like a brioche you think about, and it's very tender, and it's because of all that butter in there. So adding a little bit of fat to a pizza dough is going to make it a little more tender. It's also going to help it brown a little more. And so now we're going to add the water. This is a 60% hydration dough, so I'm going to add 300 grams of water. And this is warm water, by the way, about 90 degrees.
91,
92, right there.
92, that's great.
Warm water, again, just so that yeast has a little bit of a kickstart. 300.
It should also be noted he made this. He lives in, what do I want to say, Seattle? I think he lives in Seattle. Either that or San Francisco. Either he lived in San Francisco and moved to Seattle. But anyway, I think what you could go is, it's going to be warm and humid in his kitchen. More so than me in Chicago right now.
100 milliliters, which is 300 grams. You'll note that also some people might refer to this as an effective hydration. So just the water is 60%, right? So you would say 300 grams of water for 500 grams of flour. So you would say that's 60% hydrated. Some people also include the fat in a dough for a measurement called, the effective hydration. So 300 grams of water plus 20 grams of fat is an effective hydration of 64%, which is on the lower end.
Oh.
60% is on the lower end for a New York style pizza, but it does make it so that this dough will be very easy to work with, very easy to stretch out. All right, so let's get this here. We're going. So now what I'm going to do, I have it in a stand mixer. Of course, you do not need a stand mixer. You can do this with
I don't think
food processor. You could
OXO doesn't make that one anymore.
Just by hand on a counter in a bowl.
So I don't have one of these. I do have a food processor with a dough attachment. This is a good middle ground. I want one because you can use it for making doughy things. The dough hook just it mimics actual hand working a dough way better than most other methods.
But what the first thing you want to do anyway, though, is just mix together the dough until the point that it just comes together into sort of a shaggy ball. At this stage, you don't really need to work it too much. So what's happening is, as the flour gets hydrated, as the water works its way into the flour, that process can take a little bit of time, so you can let that time occur while you're kneading, but until that water is fully hydrated, until that flour is fully hydrated with the water, it's sort of difficult to knead properly. And so you're better off just bringing it together into a ball, you know, which is what I'm going to do here, and then letting it rest for a while, letting it sit for about 15 to 30 minutes. And what happens in that 15 to 30 minutes is that the flour will slowly absorb the water, so the dough will become properly and fully hydrated. There's also a little bit of enzymatic breakdown of some of those flour proteins going on in there, which also sort of aids in making it easier for you to then subsequently start kneading them and get them to sort of link up together.
Getting attacked over here.
The process of kneading is linking together all these.
So I want to talk about autolyse, but it's not. Right, so we'll see if that becomes relevant today.
So you can see
oh my god, I have cats
dough, but don't worry, it's not gonna
scooting
look dry
all over
when we are done with it here. It's gonna feel, if you're doing this by hand especially, this process might take 5-10 minutes, and it's gonna feel real stiff, real stiff and dry, and that's totally normal.
Yeah, right, you can do it.
I'm just gonna grab this, grab the dough here and use it to kind of
get the
sides of the bowl. Make sure that's all
texture on the sides.
Okay, close enough. All right, so now I'm going to let this just sit here for about 15 minutes or so. So I will be back in 15
if you want, you can throw. I'd throw something over the bowl so that it doesn't dry out too fast.
Softer, squishier. It's really starting to hydrate. It's also holding its shape more, so it doesn't come off on my hands.
You can use something like a plate or a pot lid.
To itself more. So those are all good signs that the flour is hydrated and we're ready to knead. So at this point...
So he's got a couple things going for him. One, he's using this pizza today. Can't let it sit overnight. So that means that his options for certain complexities are limited. Also, he has enriched this dough. Enriching the dough, the fat molecules in it literally get in the way of gluten is kind of a strand net structure. And when you put things like fat in a dough, it gets in the way of those strands and they have trouble forming. So you're going to have trouble getting like chew and body out of this dough because he's added some fat to it. So to compensate for that and for the fact that he's working quickly, like gonna cook this today. It's not like the last video where she's not sitting this out overnight. He's gonna use a stand mixer to literally mechanically work the dough. He's gonna knead it. You can do this with your hands. It's just work. So a lot of people don't.
With a stand mixer, we're going to need it basically until, I'll do it at around speed 3 here on a KitchenAid. We're going to do it until this forms a relatively smooth, satiny ball that doesn't have too many lumps. It should take a few minutes. You can do, if you were doing this in a food processor, you would basically turn on the food processor, let the dough come together, shut it off, let it sit 15 minutes, and then later on go back and turn it back on and let it ride around the blade for about 30 seconds or so, and that'll do you. And if you're doing it by hand, once...
No! I hate when I do that.
You would basically turn on the food processor, let the dough come together, shut it off, let it sit 15 minutes, and then later on go back and turn it back on and let it ride around the blade for about 30 seconds or so, and that'll do you.
Yeah, I've also noticed, at least my food processor, and I imagine it's the case for a lot of them, you're a lot closer to the power source in that. So whenever I let my food processor run for a while, it generates a lot of heat. So I have to, I've learned to manage that. If I'm mixing in a food processor, I'll actually, like, how he went out of his way to add warm water earlier. I'll literally add cold water on purpose because, I know my food processor, if I let it run for a little bit, will get very warm.
And if you're doing it by hand, once you get to this stage where the dough has rested, you want to get it onto your cutting board and do, onto your work surface and do some of these where you kind of
slap and fold. Slap and fold, baby.
Turn it. Squish it. Turn it. Squish it. Turn it. You see? Just like that.
But you also could do a little bit of
different ways of kneading, of course.
The way he took it out of the bowl and he set it down, he flopped. He slapped it.
All right, so I'm going to let this go until it forms a smooth ball. That'll take another couple minutes, all right? So I will see you in a couple minutes, all right? So you can see how this ball has gotten pretty smooth and standing. I could let this go a little bit longer, but I think we're going to be fine just here. Yeah, as long as it pulls off relatively cleanly like that, you're in pretty good shape. So now what we're gonna do is called the bulk fermentation. So that's the sort of initial rise that the dough gets before you divide it and shape it into its final sort of pieces. Proofing pans, these are specifically for pizza. I'm just gonna put a little bit of oil in there, a little bit of olive oil.
Oh.
Just so that the dough doesn't stick.
So
this initial bulk fermentation.
I have to be careful with stuff because I do. What you can do instead is you can put it on like a sheet tray, plastic covering it. But if you have multiple sets of dough, that can take up a lot of space, and also you need to keep it covered. So, I really want those, and I don't need them. I have to mantra myself, like stupid for a home chef to have. And again, he has it because worked at pizzerias. He has friends that work at pizzerias, so they probably just grabbed him one.
Fermentation. The idea is that we're giving the dough, the yeast some time to work. We're giving the gluten some time to form. So the yeast, is going to provide both flavor, but also, of course, is going to stretch the dough out, provide bubbles in there, give the gluten a little more structure. And then after that, we're going to divide it into its final shapes. The bulk fermentation part, we're going to do it only for, you could do it anywhere at room temperature, anywhere between, half an hour, since this is a warm dough, half an hour up to a couple hours. Anywhere in that range is okay. If you did want to do a cold fermentation step, you could take this dough, pop it in a sealed container with enough room to rise, and then throw it in the fridge for up to
14,
up to 5 days or so, and it'll get sort of improved with time, or brown better with time, become a little stretchier. But all right, but that's about it. So I'm going to form this into a ball. The way I do that is I kind of push over with one hand and collect what I'm pushing over with the other hand and make kind of a little belly button on the other side, so like kind of collect it all into a little belly button type thing, and then plop it down on that side with my hands kind of flat towards the cutting board like this. You see I get under there a little bit and kind of tuck it all in, and then I'm just going to roll it around like that. For this initial bulk fermentation part, this part doesn't really matter the shaping doesn't matter too much because we're going to divide it and reshape it, but it always is nice to have a round thing that's a relatively even shape so that you can really see how much it's rising. If you just throw a blob of dough in there, it's hard to tell how much it's risen. But with this one, we're going to see clearly as it expands to fill out the container. All right, so now this is going to sit at room temperature. I'm going to go do some work, clean up here, but I will be back in a couple hours. All right, so I haven't opened this yet. It's been, I don't know, maybe two and a half hours actually, because I got caught up doing some other stuff. So you can see, look at that. Rising nicely, nice and smooth, filled out the space nice and round. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide this ball into two.
Surprised he's getting that much action on it with only
just a thin layer.
4 grams of yeast. And he only meant to put in 2.
Like this. You just rub it on your board. It's good for the wood, and it's also going to help your dough out a little bit here. All right, so we're going to pop our dough out. I'm not using any bench flour. You shouldn't need any bench flour with this particular dough because it's relatively low hydration. You did warm water, so it's nice and developed. There's a little bit of oil on the outside also, so that prevents it from sticking much. So I'm dividing it in half. Each one of these is going to turn into a 16-inch pizza. So I'm doing the same basic thing. I'm going to tuck it into a ball.
There's lots of ways to make
over the whole dough ball. So you can see I kind of tucked everything in the back there, and now I'm kind of twisting and pinching this into a little.
That's a fine way to do it. I kind of developed just like a tuck and fold motion that I just do in a bowl or against a board.
See how I'm doing?
Gets you there.
Really working my way around it, tucking in, and pinching with my thumb over
just
here.
You wanna develop tension across the top of the dough.
And now I'm gonna finish off the same way. Hands relatively flat. Getting underneath it and kind of tucking those edges down in. And then finally, a little bit of like a loose hand, like you're gonna catch a baseball, you know, kind of a loose hand like that. Or catch a dodgeball.
You don't have to do it this much.
I've been teaching my daughter to catch a baseball recently. Says it's a lot of like, no, protect your face. Don't let it, none of this, like let it go flying up into your nose. All right, so there you go. There's one ball of dough. Put it seam side down into our dough proofing container. If you don't have a dough proofing container, by the way, my favorite method of proofing dough, 2 bowls like this, just plop your dough in the bottom of this, take a second bowl, put it on top, just like that. You got a seal, relatively good seal, and it'll proof nicely, and then it'll stay nice and round. That's really the
like cats are doing crimes.
Proof in a container that's round, so that when you do pull it out and start stretching it, you're starting.
Yep,
with the round.
there she goes. She's knocking shit off.
To a finished round.
Criminal.
All right.
I have one other person watching. Wonder.
And now for this,
my boyfriend.
Rise, the first rise I did for a couple hours. The second rise will also take a couple of hours. So we want this to roughly double in volume, but really we're looking for the dough to kind of slacken up and become sort of easier to stretch. Right now it's pretty taut because we just shaped it. So after a couple of hours, it's going to relax. It'll slacken out. It'll become much easier to stretch. These stack on top of each other nicely. And I will see you in a couple hours. All right, so we're ready to stretch and top and bake our dough. So you'll see I have in here in my oven
full of crime. The crime girl. Hold on, guys. I need to. Okay, cool. Somebody else is here. Hello, whoever else is here. I need to show. Let her down. Look, I'm chonky. I made me chonky. I am powerful. I do. Working. I'm studying pizza. So that I got power now. Is it? I know what you mean.
Yeah, there's a
Back power.
my millennial was not a millennial.
Well, also it's Aubrey Plaza, who is a national treasure. Have a good night. Foul pup, ladies and gentlemen. Time is money, and money is pizza, and pizza is power. Knowledge. Oh my goodness, baby girl. Excuse me, guys. I'm back. There we go. Turn on a laser pointer for the cats. They're being wild.
I've got it preheated at 550 degrees. I have it set on roast setting, which means that the heat comes not just from the bottom, but also from the back. And I have the fan on to circulate the air. So the way I've set this up, I have a baking steel on one pan. I prefer using baking steels to baking stones. They cook a little bit better because they have higher conductivity and higher specific heat capacity than a stone does.
Yep.
They also don't break like stones do. So I have a baking stone there, and just above it I have another stack of a couple of heavy metal things to really bring the heat down from the top. I'm going to keep the oven door
closed. Iron.
The reason I don't, so every oven
cast iron.
My oven, if you can see it,
I could do that.
But if you can see it in the very back, the convection fan, the fan that
convection
here, let me see if I can,
all the way on high.
The oven is lower. If I were to move this baking stone up one rack, it would be above the level of the fan, so the top of it wouldn't get hot. So I put it right down here. Every oven is different, so you're gonna have to experiment with what the best position for putting your stone.
And the best position for cooking pizza in your oven, you want even heat, but also hot heat. Like you want hot with, I'd even go hot first, even second, because you can always reach in and turn it using a metal peel.
And stuff your stone or steel for baking is, but again, I do recommend a steel over a steel.
That cast iron idea is
if you don't have either of those, by the way, you can use like an overturn
interesting.
skillet, like the biggest skillet you have, overturn it in your oven, preheat it with that, and then just scale your pizza recipe down accordingly. All right, so we have a nice round ball of dough. I'm sprinkling it with just a little semolina, not much. You don't need a ton of bench flour. Could be mainly just because if you get too much flour on your dough before you bake it, it's gonna burn on the dough, and you'll taste that in the final pizza. So we'll shake off some of the excess flour at the end as well. So you can see, first thing I'm doing, I'm trying to form, the little, what's called the cornicione, the bones, the crust. So I'm giving it a little bit of a dimpling with my fingertips to really separate that out. And then this intersection, I'm again using the tips of my fingers.
It varies by dough, but like in a Neapolitan dough, you don't need a ton. Like that edge part that has no toppings really lifts. Now, that might not be as dramatic in this. I haven't made an enriched dough before, which I might have to try. Like I'm really interested about what an enriched dough would do. Gonna make it breadier and chewier. I wonder if that should be my next experiment. I was gonna do a Brian Lagerstrom pizza, but I think he lists the weight that he does in fat. He used vegetable shortening, but I'd like to use olive oil. I might try that. That might be what I do this week. What shaping methods is he going to use?
Once it starts getting a little bigger, we can use our hands a little to stretch it.
Use
just so we get into a nice even
hold and tug.
Flat shape, remove some of those dimple marks from our fingers, and then we can pick it up and start.
Okay, I call this the hand over hand method.
Knuckles like this. You see, so we mainly let the weight of the dough do the stretching for us. Let me grab my pizza peel. So this is going to be a 16-inch-ish, I don't know, probably more like 15 and a half, just so that it doesn't fly off the back of the stone. But, it's around 16-inch pizza. And that thickness, stretching out this much dough to 16 inches is going to give you a thickness that is on par with sort of, the thinner side of what you would expect from a New York style slice. Certainly about on par with what you would get in New York City itself. That said, if you have trouble getting it to 16 inches, or if your dough for some reason, whatever, maybe the flour you're using is a little different from mine, or maybe your day went a little different, or your dough over fermented. These are all things that have happened to me. If for some reason your dough isn't cooperating and you can't quite get it out to 16 inches, 14 inches is fine. Even thicker is fine. Your pizza's just going to be a little bit thicker. It's still going to taste good. Also, I'm using semolina to stretch out. You can use whatever you want. It doesn't have to be semolina. You can use regular all-purpose flour. You can use something like cornmeal if you want. There's some New York pizzerias that use cornmeal. There are some New York pizzerias, like real old-school places even, that use breadcrumbs, like classic slice shops that use breadcrumbs instead of flour or cornmeal or even semolina. So, if anybody comes and tells you, oh, you can't be New York pizza unless you stretch it out in regular bench flour or regular wheat flour, or it can't be New York pizza because it's only 18 inches and not 20, or it can't be New York pizza because it's 6 slices. Whatever rules people make, like, you can probably safely assume that they're not actually from New York, or
I don't know.
Pizza, all it has to be is served by the slice, pretty thin, and able to be held and eaten as a single slice, folded in half. That's sort of the only criteria I have really for a New York pizza. Beyond that, like all the details,
it refers to a specific style of crust,
and not just recent ones. You'll find old school examples. That's about 16 inches, I'd say. Yeah, this is a 16-inch paddle, so we're maybe 16 and a half.
Is that a bamboo?
So, pizza like this. So once you get it out to about within an inch or two of its final thickness.
Dude, bamboo. I never thought about that. Bamboo makes a kind of meh cutting board material, even though bamboo has the capacity to be such a sustainable building material. It is kind of a meh material kind of a mid material for cutting boards because it naturally contains silica, which is the same stuff that you'll find in sand and glass. And so it's essentially it's a ready-made abrasive. Like you can use silica as like a technical abrasive in like sandpaper and stuff. So in point of fact, sandpaper might literally have some sandpapers might literally be silica. I don't know, maybe not, because silica dust is dangerous, so that might not be the case. But it's an abrasive. It's like sand, so it's terrible for your knives. It's really the only downside of it is that your knives will dull super fast if you regularly use a bamboo cutting board. But pizza peel, all the benefits of wood and just like more tensile strength, arguably more sustainable. You got to be careful where you source your bamboo from. So it's there's lots of places that like to mass produce bamboo stuff that's not sustainably produced. Not very much natural bamboo forest left in China, so in ASPAC.
You can actually get it on your paddle. This is bamboo, which is not the ideal paddle material, but I left my my maple board out in the rain and it warped, so I'm using bamboo for now. Bamboo just is not as sort of it's not as porous, and so
not as naturally non-stick.
But you see, I got it on here. It's not quite 16 inches. What we're going to do is we're going to top
the edge of bamboo has the ability to almost be like glossy, in a way that makes it nice. It makes it a really self supporting and smooth material to handle, but it means that your pizza is going to stick more easily.
It, and then we'll do a little bit of adjusting at the very end just to stretch it out a little bit. So we got a nice circle. This is the tomatoes that I got from the farmer's market that I just cooked in a pot and then ran through a food mill. That's all it is. You can also just, of course, use a good crushed canned tomato. So something like Bianco di Napoli or like a Cento DOP crushed canned tomato, or Muir Glen also makes a pretty good canned tomato. You can just use a pretty good crushed tomato, or you can get canned whole peeled tomatoes, run them through a food mill, or blitz them for a couple seconds in your food processor. Or
the only problem Bianco di Napoli is I think the only place that you can get it is Whole Foods.
Very fresh tomato sauce. This is New York sauces come in a variety.
I don't really feel the need to support Whole Foods anymore. They're an Amazon-owned company.
All right, so fresh
he said on Twitch,
crushed tomatoes. I'm gonna do a little bit of this oregano.
Also an Amazon-owned company.
Under the cheese.
Amazon does certain things well.
New York slice shop flavor. I got whole milk, dry mozzarella. So low moisture mozzarella, whole milk. I bought this at the deli counter from PCC here. This is I think Belgioioso, which is not your greatest pizza cheese, but it'll do the job. If you can get something like Grande, that's great. Polio, is Polio still around? I think so. But depending on where you are, you might.
For most of us, your best
you might
chance.
Honestly have difficulty finding whole milk, low moisture mozzarella. Oftentimes.
So, almost everywhere that I have been, your best bet is the deli counter. The deli counter will have whole milk, full fat mozzarella for making sliced cheese out of. And you can go to them and either just get a cheese and ask for it to be cut really thick, and then you can just like dice it up with a knife, or better yet, just ask them if you can have a hunk. Be like, hey, can I have a hunk of, lop me off of a hunk. Just give me like 2 pounds and a block. They're pretty happy to do that for you.
Sometimes you're only going to find part skim, which won't really work for a New York style pizza. It won't work properly, at least.
My main problem, part skim doesn't set up stretchy and gooey. It does something else. And it's just not very, doesn't make very good pizza. You don't want that. Like I even tried to mix last time, and I think I'm out on even mixing it. The texture just isn't right.
Check the block cheese section of your supermarket. I would check the sort of fancier cheese section of your supermarket if you have one. I would definitely check the deli counter. Sometimes they have mozzarella for slicing, whole milk mozzarella for slicing that you can just ask them for a block of. And that might be your best bet. Worst case scenario, buy whole milk string cheese, take it out of its packaging and just chop it up into little pieces and use it, and that'll work just fine. All right, so not too much cheese on a New York style pizza. That's probably even on the higher end of what I would do. Little sprinkle of Parmesan also. I'm going to do a little pre-baked Parmesan. You could use Romano, something like that. And a little post-baked Parmesan. Same with the basil. I'm going to do a little pre-baked basil, so you get some of the basil perfume through the whole thing. And then we'll do a little bit of post-baked basil as well for that fresh basil flavor. All right. A little more oregano. Get that
fresh oregano.
Little pinch of salt. I know this is quite fatty mozzarella, so I'm not going to add olive oil to here. Sometimes I might add a drizzle of olive oil, but I know this stuff is very fatty and tends to kind of pool up with grease if you add extra oil, so I'm not going to. But you do what feels right to you. Experiment a little. Come up with a plan you like. All right.
Yeah, it would be oregano, wouldn't it?
Toppings, it'll stretch out a little more and kind of hold its shape a little better because the weight of those toppings. And this is also a good opportunity to make sure that your pizza's freely sliding.
I'm so tempted to look up.
You see? All right.
Lost
into the oven.
Lost in the pond.
My Food Lab branded baking steel, actually.
Yeah.
It's gonna go right up to the back edge there. Back to. Ooh, let's make sure we fit on the front. There we go.
Yeah, close enough.
We're gonna pop it right back in. So you want to go again highest heat that your oven has. Preheated to, and some ovens are all different. So I used to have an oven where the broiler and the
and is that a Viking?
Completely separate. So even if the oven was preheated,
it's an LG.
Turn on the broiler. With this oven, once it gets above 500 degrees, the broiler will not turn on. So I cannot broil the top of the pizza here, which is why I use that baking stone arrangement. Ideally, in the ideal situation, you'll be able to preheat your baking steel.
Mine will.
Right underneath the broiler element of your oven, and then as soon as it goes in, you switch on the broiler.
So that's really interesting. The cast iron method that he has, he's not doing it because it's advantageous. He's doing it because he can't use his broiler at top temperature. So I can preheat my oven super thoroughly and then switch on the broiler, and then add my pizza. So probably means I should continue doing what I was doing. That's probably a variable that doesn't need changed. Heat up the oven, let it run. Seriously, like let your oven run for like an hour if you have it, if you got the time. Minimum half hour. Get it really thoroughly preheated and saturated with heat, and then switch to your broiler and get your pizza steel up close to the top. Now, I should specify, I'm looking at people that use either a baking stone or a pizza steel. You don't have to. There's different levels of being into it that you can be. So like, I'd encourage you to make a pizza at home no matter what you have. You can use the back of a baking sheet, or he said earlier, get your biggest pot, like your biggest all metal pan if you have one that is like not nonstick at all, and just put it in the oven upside down. Like, you totally can do it. You can make yourself a totally homemade lovely pizza and it will be delicious. So like my stream here, I'm going to be chasing details. That's because I'm into it and I think it's fun. Like there are levels, right? There's achieving something delicious that's fresh out of the oven. And like, that's really the benefit of home pizza, is like, take it out of the oven, slice it, put it in your mouth. Like, don't burn yourself. But other than that, like, almost all pizza you have ever had came out of the oven like some time ago by the time you get it. At minimum, you have to take it out of the oven, put it in a box, then the person has to hand it to you, ring you up, and then you have to drive home. Very rarely, if you happen to be in a place that you're eating pizza like in the restaurant, but even that might be under a warmer for a bit before it gets to you. Like, you don't have to be perfect is the enemy of good. Like, if you want to just make pizza, do it. Like, I'm going to be chasing details because I think it's fun, but you don't have to. You don't have to chase details. Like, I made a pizza last week. It was lovely. I would 10 out of 10 would do it again. I'm looking for a little bit. I'm looking to see if I can chase something that's like a little bit more towards my personal idealized pizza. And also, like, what I'm in the mood for changes. Like, what I made last week was like an awesome Neapolitan pizza. That was great. Like, me and my boyfriend love Neapolitan pizza. I'll do it again. But like, I'm looking to see if I can get something like a little bit softer, big and chewier. So this might be a good way to do it.
So that you're blasting it with heat from the top and the bottom. And when you do that, you end up, getting a pizza that can bake somewhere around maybe, 5 minutes or so in a home oven. A real, in a pizza shop in New York, those ovens, our ovens at home go to 550 degrees. Most people's, maybe 500 degrees.
I'm interested to see what he says here.
Probably going to be closer to around 600 degrees, sometimes 650.
Okay.
Neapolitan style pizza, even hotter. That's going to be closer to 900 degrees or so. But so the difference is that the longer a pizza takes baking, the cooler the oven, the longer it takes for the pizza to bake, the drier it becomes. So to get the sort of same color and puffiness on a pizza in a 500 degree oven, it might take you 6 to 7 minutes. maybe even longer, you know, depending on the style of dough. Like the same day dough might take even longer, maybe 7 minutes, we'll see. But in a really hot oven, it'll only take 4 to 5 minutes to get that color. And so what happens is that in the time that it's developing that color and that outer crust crunchiness, the inside is sort of starting to dry out. So a pizza that's baked really, really hot, like a Neapolitan style pizza that bakes at 900 degrees, you get a very, very thin layer of crustiness followed by this kind of like cloud of really moist interior bread crumb. Whereas a New York style pizza that we do in a home oven is going to be not quite as big of a contrast between the outer crust and that really poofy inner crumb. We're going to get sort of more of a crunchiness, but you know,
interesting.
A little bit of, poofiness as well. Let's see how we're doing. We're going to rotate a couple times in the baking process. I don't know how long my blathering has been going, but it's starting to look good. We got some nice little bubbling going on there. The bottom is getting really nicely browned as well. All right, I will come back. I'm not going to blather anymore.
In the oven when the at 23, done, so that was like 3 minutes?
A few minutes later, so probably about, I don't remember, look at the clock, 5 minutes total, maybe 6 minutes. Ooh, I think we're just about there. It could go, I mean, if I was really going for it, I could go a hair longer on the back end. Let's give it another 30 seconds. All right, I like a little bit more color on the back end, but that is looking pretty
I do love his other New York
so now it's
style pizza.
Super greasy, so I might finish it off with a little bit of my some of the fancy extra virgin olive oil just for some extra flavor there.
Yeah, I've got a Robusto olive oil.
How's that look?
I love that shit. Whew. Doesn't even have to be that expensive.
For same day dough, huh? Little olive oil.
I don't begrudge somebody having a fancy olive oil. Go for it.
Fresh basil. Let's get the stems out of there.
Fuck yeah.
And a little bit more Parmesan.
Dig it.
How does that look to you?
Uh-oh.
On that cutting board.
Bamboo again.
I want the big guns for this.
Dude, I'm so jealous. Jealous is a big cutting board. What is... Hold on. That pizza. Come back here. And... Pause. Wait. That pizza is 16 inches. So... What are we thinking? Dude, I think that's more than 3 feet wide. Like 3.5 feet. Yeah. I don't think it's 4. Doesn't look quite enough to be 4. And maybe 3 by 2? That might be like 3.5 by 3 or something, though, actually. Dude, I'm so tempted. Anyway, it's big. Big.
I love these bubbles here. We're gonna sit over here today because my dining room is in a disarray. Oh, that's a pretty spot for that pizza, though. All right, let me cut out a slice. Do
get a big floppy one for the thumbnail. Oh, okay. I don't mind that. When people think of New York, they want the giant
good
floppage.
Ooh. Could have been a little darker on the bottom, but I like that color actually. You see how it cracks? Oh, starts to crack just a little bit when you fold it, but it's still nice and supple. That is that shortening in action.
Shortening.
Takes me home. All right. New York pizza, all in a day. Pretty easy. You need a little bit of special equipment. That's the nature of pizza making, but not much. Regular home oven. So yeah, I hope you found this useful. Guys.
Yeah. Interesting. Shortening is such a interesting move. And I don't know that there's really a good reason to not do other fats other than just, pizza is an Italian invention, and the people that brought it to America and New York were Italian. So that sticks with it, right? That sticks with its legacy. So if you were making this in Italy, in the 1800s, if you were making this around town, the fat that you had was olive oil. People that brought it over in the early 20th century. 20th? 20th, yeah. 1900s. Okay, what are we doing? Let's look. Kenji has other pizzas. He's got Chicago Tavern style pizza. So he has the basics. He still occasionally does write for the Food Lab, which is our Food Lab and the Serious Eats the same thing? The Food Lab. Yeah, it's SeriousEats.com. And he'll still write a lot for SeriousEats.com. I don't know the nature of Serious Eats as a business, but it is mostly a collection of several food professionals that are huge nerds. And is it because their book is called The Food Lab? Yeah, The Food Lab, Better Cooking Through Science by J. Kenji Lopez Alt. That is going on wish list. Yeah, dude, guys, if you know what I was about to say out loud was, if you want to make me happy, buy me a cookbook. I should clarify, make it a cookbook with a strong perspective on something. Like, I don't want it to be just a book of recipes. Like I bought one of Madhur Joffrey's Indian cooking books. She's a person that like has a gazillion cookbooks. She's written something like 20, 30, 40 cookbooks. That's a lot, and I think the way that you do that, the one that I have, I don't want to say that it's bad, but it is a ton of recipes without perspective, and I don't know, I don't feel like I understand Indian cooking better for having read it. I talked to... So I've watched this one before, but I don't remember it. Quiet, shush. Talk to, look, I'm Chonky. I did some work on my avatar, so now I'm a Chonky boy, which I've mixed feelings about, but I want what I want is my avatar to look like me, and right now it does. This is what I look like IRL. I am a chonker. He says, talking about making pizza. One of the reasons I want to make pizza is I'm gonna eat the whole fucking thing. Aww. Talk to.
When it's Kenji Lopez alt again. I'm at home. It's late, so everyone's
very late.
But,
very late.
I'm gonna make some pizza tomorrow, so tonight I'm making some no-knead dough. Here we go.
Okay, so interesting. This is his no-knead dough, and he is making that ahead of time. So this is like we said, we can compensate. Complex bread takes time, and you can compensate for that by using certain techniques. He is going to make a dough that he's going to make overnight ahead of time. How odd to make pizza, you do need dough. Yes. You do need dough. But I find it interesting that his no-knead pizza method, he's probably going to use time, and then he's going to do some folding. Let's see what he does.
So we rearranged our kitchen recently, and I have no idea where we put our scale.
Oh no!
So I'm gonna kind of eyeball all this.
Oh no! Don't do that.
So you don't really have to worry about it too much. But I know that this thing is about 2 cups of flour.
Boo!
Which is about 280 grams of flour.
Yeah.
What you're looking for is the right ratio.
Don't do it.
Of flour to
If I couldn't find my scale, that would be the end of pizza night. I'm making something else.
Hydration. That is for every every 100 grams of flour, you use 60 to 65 grams of water. So this is 280 grams of water, so I think it's around 170 milliliters, 170 grams of water, which is, let's see.
Don't tell me how many milliliters.
Let's see.
Give me grams.
That's a little more than we need, but I'll pour it in, and first some salt.
I think 1 milliliter is 1 gram of water.
2.5 to 3% salt by weight for this dough.
1 milliliter is 1 cc. Is 1 gram of water.
Grab some yeast.
Don't quote me on any of that. I refuse to. Do not be like, well, Mutt said. Mutt doesn't know shit about math.
Instant yeast is what I'm using. Really, you can use whatever.
Wait, what brand of instant yeast? He's using
Instant
it's there we go. It's Fleischmann's. I like Fleischmann's because I like going Fleischmann's. Emphasis on the Fleisch. Raggy, hello.
This is what I'm using. Really, you can use whatever.
We're finally awake at the same time.
These no-knead dough recipes are very, very forgiving as far as the amount of yeast. They kind of almost self-regulate. So I aim for like around
self-regulate
by weight.
Making 0.5%.
Just a little bit.
I'm doing good. I'm researching making pizza.
Clean hands.
Look, pizza. Yeah, wash your hands. Wash your hands. Oh. Excellent form. He's going to town. Apple Watch, though.
Alright. Let me mix up that salt, some yeast, some flour.
When you're putting flour into the dough, if you're making a yeast dough and you're putting salt in the flour, you want to make sure that it's evenly distributed, because if you just half mix it and you accidentally leave half a tablespoon sitting together in one spot, that spot will kill all the yeast in that area. So you want to get it mixed up so that the salinity, the total salt content of like the whole dough isn't something that'll kill the yeast.
I'm going to do a little bit of olive oil on this one. I don't always add olive oil to my pizza doughs. It makes them brown a little bit faster and also makes them a little more sort of tender and a looser crumb structure, which is, not always desirable, but just mixing it up. All right, so I'm going to go with not all this.
So interesting. This is an enriched dough again. He went for olive oil. And sadly, like this method is interesting to me, but I can't make this. I'll take a look at his recipe. Like he totally eyeballed this, so I can't replicate this.
This water, because that was around 190 milliliters, I think. So I'm going with about that much to start. And we'll see where that gets us.
I agree with that. It is good to learn how to cook.
Essentially what happens is you want to get it just to the point where there's no real dry flour remaining. And then over the course of the night, what happens is there are enzymes in the flour that break down the proteins into shorter and shorter pieces, which are then easier to align. So when you mix flour and water together, it creates a sort of protein web called gluten, and the enzymes help that form more easily. So when you do a no-knead dough like this, the enzymes have a long time to work, and it gets to the point where just the action of the yeast bubbling and creating action within the dough, is sort of like a kneading on a microscopic scale, to the point that you don't actually have to really knead it at all. All you have to do is combine it just like this, cover it, and then tomorrow we'll come back and I'll show you where it is. Cover it with plastic, bowl about.
I love it. He's just got like a ton of goodies. I don't know if he's planning on cooking here. This is just how he rolls. He's got shallots. Got a bowl, like the bowl full of oranges I get. That's great. He's got like a bunch of nice shallots over here. He has like a quarter baking sheet full of like 15 onions. And then that appears to be thyme. Fresh thyme, like a ton of it.
At least 6 to 8 times the.
You should, Fraggy.
It's gonna rise like crazy overnight.
Feel free to
and
oh man, what is it? Is it exclamation point follow? Aha! If you want to hop in my Discord, please do. I should make a channel. I might do that right now. I'm going to make a channel in my Discord called Text Channels. Let's add one called Text. It is called That Furry Foodie. Create channel. Please, 10,000% do hop into my Discord channel and post recipes in the That Furry Foodie channel. That would be great. I honestly would totally love that. It would make me super happy. Send it to me on Telegram. Ooh. Looks super nice. Dude, like I'm not hard to please. I love rice. Like, put it in me. Just a sec, guys. That big. I don't know. I love that I don't like when people unsolicited advertise a stream to me. Do I mind? I don't mind if you directly advertise a stream to me. Don't do it in a group chat without permission. That's super cringe. Like I was always taught just you don't do that. But also just like with me, I'm just like a big dog, and I want you to be a big dog. White rice, diced up hot dogs, mashed burger patties, onion bits, chopped up breakfast sausage, leeks, all mixed together with soy sauce. And dude,
Let's do that.
looks tasty. Simple but tasty.
Nice and tight. There you go. So we'll cover it, leave it on the counter, room temp, overnight, and tomorrow we'll come back and we'll see where we are.
Keep getting free gifted scrubs to channels you've never visited. Well, I'll tell you how that happens. Talk to you. What it is you're in a channel, and that channel raids to another channel, and even if you're not like super active, your name can still get passed in that. So you'll end up, when people do gift subs, you'll end up with things. Also, yeah, it's literally if you just ever spent 5 seconds in there. So if you accidentally click on one and then click on something else, it'll still do it. But yeah. No, I more meant because I just sent an acquaintance of mine who I happen to know likes big dogs a link to the stream, and at that point it's just because it's like I'm a dog. Hey, come watch me be a dog. I'm now going to bark at you. Bark, woof, bark, bark, bark. Woof, 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 bark, bark. Woof, 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 bark, bark, bark. Good stuff. Did you hear that? Was there audio? I finally gotten that fixed for me. I'm so excited.
This is a little trick I learned. I don't even remember from whom.
Yeah.
Stella? Maybe it was Brave Tart.
Brave Tart?
Flour helps you get wet dough off of your hands. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow, right?
Okay.
See you guys tomorrow.
So what he did, like 0.5% or 1% of flour.
I did not change my shirt today. I will do it later though, because it's kind of gross, huh? Anyhow, we're back. This is the next day.
Dude.
I got my dough here again.
It's fine.
Now, I made a mistake.
If you have time to cross compare people's clothes in a video, certainly if you have people to cross compare people's clothes in a video for the purpose of commenting on their cleanliness, touch grass, go take a walk, like play a game.
And I did one thing without the camera on, and that was to give it a couple of turns earlier today, about an hour ago. But the way you do that is basically you reach around the edges of it, pull up the top, just kind of fold it over.
Okay, so a fold-in turn. So, looks like he did like a bulk ferment of like 12 hours, maybe. And then he did a fold and turn, and then a half hour did another fold and turn. So what you're doing when you're folding and turning, gluten forms strands that like exist in like a 2D net that stretch across the dough. So when you're doing a fold and turn, what you're doing is you're taking that strand and you're bending it on top of itself. And then it will make more strands, and you can come back in a little bit and do it again. And it really dramatically gives you more strength in the dough than it would without, to the point where you often don't need to knead that dough at all. It's generated enough. Yeah, this dough is interesting in that he is doing that, and then he also enriched it slightly. He added a little bit of oil. So that net that I'm talking about, it has trouble forming around fat molecules. Fat molecules get in the way. So you can keep some of that gluten from having as much oomph by adding in oil. And also oil does other things. It's going to give it a richer texture. But the biggest thing is you're controlling gluten formation. So that will make it so gluten will be tough and chewy. Also makes an exterior that crisps up and gets crunchy, gets crusty, like crusty bread that's got a lot of gluten in it. But then he's added just a little bit of oil, like it was just a couple tablespoons, like maybe even like 1 or 2.
Over itself like that a few times, and that's what I did earlier, and then it rose back out into the shape. And the reason you do that is you kind of want to introduce any sort of pockets of yeast. You sort of want to homogenize it, introduce the yeast to new food so that I can work a little better. But you'll see how nice and
that too
this dough has become overnight. It's like real pizza dough, you know. So what I'm gonna do now?
You mean it's like real pizza dough?
You can make like a New York style pizza out of it, stretch it yourself. You can make a pan pizza. What we're going to do today is we're going to make these, these pan pizzas and cast iron.
Oh, heck yeah, pan pizzas.
I got 2 cast iron pans here.
Pan pizzas are friggin' fantastic for a million different reasons. One, it's way easier to get a cast iron pan or a steel pan than a pizza stone or a pizza steel. Which I'm saying as a person who has a pizza steel, but still, like, totally, you could do this. And also, if you make a pan pizza and you just leave it with little or no toppings, that becomes focaccia, which focaccia is just fantastic.
Different sizes. I'm just going to eyeball it again. I'm not positive this is enough dough to fill up both of them, but we'll see. Little flour on the board, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, do what you feel, bro.
That's probably 1 and 2, right? There you go. And so when you're balling your dough, what I do is I kind of take it like this, and I tuck it all underneath as I kind of...
So I imagine he's going to put some oil
and so what that does
in each of them, stretch it out a little bit, and then let it...
And then what you can do is put it on your board like this.
Gonna pet that dog.
Because you actually want it to stick.
You can pet me. Go for it.
Loose hand.
Dude, that needs to be...
like that, and that'll kind of create a nice little seal at the bottom.
That needs to be one of my redeems.
Easy. Got some olive oil here.
Is that... I mean, there's a reason we all love that video. Is because we all are that kid.
I'm also going to get some sauce going, so let me heat up some olive oil.
You're adorable. Yeah, then a lot of the other ones are from that sketch. I love. What are you gonna do, sweetheart? Shoot us with your laser beams? That'd be cool. You usually do something lame with it, like warm up an old lady's porridge. Oh, is that a little tepid for you, ma'am?
Olive oil in this pan over here.
He's gone mad with olive oil power.
These plain old good quality crushed tomatoes with some salt. Or whole peeled tomatoes that you crush yourself with some salt. For this style of pizza, I like making a kind of lightly flavored sauce.
With like a fucking cup of olive oil? Jesus.
Plop.
I just said that. That's a lot. I fucking put butter in my pizza sauce sometimes. It's all good, bro.
There we go. All right, into here. All right, now these guys I'm gonna turn around a little bit, get them all nice and coated with olive oil all over.
And then you're just gonna leave them.
Wash my hands.
Yeah, so he's gonna leave them. Okay. Cover him again. I don't know if you are a truly.
This little thing is from a
oh yeah,
Japanese candy
It's like powder that it's made for kids, and it's this like powder that you pour into these little trays in this well, and it turns into different kinds of shapes. That one's it's called Poppin' Cookin', I think. Poppin' Cook. This one is a sushi set, so you make your own little. One of the powders turns into candy that looks like.
He's talking about stuff.
Turns into candy that looks like tuna. One of them turns into candy that looks like an egg. And then the coolest part of that is that there's one that actually has
He's talking about stuff that he does with his daughter.
Spherification, like sodium alginate spherification. You make these little candies that look like salmon eggs, but are, I don't know, some kind of.
Oh, you're talking about his stuff? Hang in there, Fraggy.
It's really cool. Actually works. All right.
I imagine he's going to cover these and leave them sit for a couple hours.
Well, this basil I'll use later. It's seen better days, but whatever. Basil in the time of coronavirus. Save the stems for the sauce. Throw the leaves in here for the pizzas later. Got the stems. Grab a little garlic.
Especially if you might if you're going to use any type of blender on your pizza sauce, totally throw your
smash.
Throw your smash.
The paper's off.
Puppy smash. Throw your basil stems in there, and if you're going to cook it for a few minutes.
Oops, paper's stuck in there.
Kenji,
really have to do
you're stressing me out with the Lazarus Fair
on this garlic
knife patterning here.
Rough
well, he's right. The paper won't ever cook out.
Stuck in there, pull them out.
But yeah, you can cook basil if you're gonna like simmer it for 20 minutes. Cook the basil stems in there and just leave them, and then run your like stick blender through it.
All right,
dude.
Garlic.
Can I tell you something? Speaking of that, some pizza sauce is something I use it for. I really love that high quality stick blenders have gotten so cheap. Yeah, those are garlic cloves, right there. Like a high quality, like a totally serviceable stick blender is $15 now. That's lovely.
It's gonna go right into the oil here. Oops, which is too hot.
Which is too hot. Oh no!
Smoking, which we don't want.
No.
What did I do there? All right. Yeah, I probably shouldn't do that.
No, you shouldn't.
That's a good way to ruin your pan.
It is. Don't do that, kids.
Oops, sorry, I had to cut away for a second because my daughter talked there. But anyhow, don't do that with your pan. That was a dumb thing for me to do.
Yeah.
Pressure of the video. All right, meanwhile, I'm going to go here. Pepper flakes. We want pepper flakes and oregano. Oregano. What's that? Oregano. Woo.
Okay, guys. I have to. Especially since he just did that. I have to. Give me just a sec here. I need to go... Oh, shit. I accidentally closed the video. That's okay. I can pull it back up. In the pond. Oregano. Okay.
Today's big question, why do Americans pronounce it oregano instead of oregano like the British? Well, as a newly minted US citizen myself, I'm here to tell you that us Brits have long been asking the wrong question. You see, although a staple of Italian cooking, the word oregano entered English via Spanish in the 18th century. If we, the British, are to declare victory in this linguistic war of words, it should follow that the Spanish pronunciation mirrors our very own oregano. The problem is, reality dictates otherwise. Just as with the pronunciation favored by Americans, Spanish speakers also place the stress on the second syllable, resulting in
oregano.
This same emphasis was even found in the Latin word oreganum, from which the word oregano was derived. So perhaps the question ought to be, why do the British pronounce oregano, as well as a host of other Spanish-derived words, differently to Spanish speakers, not to mention Americans? Today's
Yeah, so no, fuck it. I say oregano.
We want
I say oregano. and that is, I'm going to keep it that way. But what confused me is if you sound it out, both Spanish and Italian will put the emphasis on the second to last syllable, second to last vowel, but not if there's an accent. So in oregano, it probably has an accent on the second E. Oregano. Are you a Spanish person, Fraggy? I that's a genuine question. I don't know that.
Pepper flakes and...
I have only seen you on the interwebs.
Oregano. What's that?
Oregano.
Woo.
Yes! What brand of Spanish are you?
All right, let's try this again. Olive oil.
Where?
And garlic.
Puerto Rico. I've never been. I'd like to go. I really would.
Oh, I had some mac and cheese left over on it.
Oh no. Oh dude, this guy cooks like me. Fuck it.
Pepper flakes. Some dried oregano. Oregano is one of those herbs that actually works really well dried. Generally, like herbs that are hardier leaves, like oregano, marjoram, thyme, sage, those tend to do pretty well when they're dried. Rosemary, it's the herbs like parsley, basil, chives, like those really more delicate ones that just don't do well dried. And it's because those hardier herbs, their volatiles are actually less volatile. Their aromas are less volatile, so they don't. And it's because they grow in hotter climates, so they don't want all this stuff evaporating out of them.
Uses Cento.
So generally, like,
I'm down.
Hardier herbs, their flavors tend to...
Cento makes lovely stuff. The one thing that I wish they, at least at one point, made tomatoes that were just tomatoes. These days, they almost never do. Their tomatoes have a little bit of basil and a little bit of salt in them, which, like, there is essentially nothing. There is essentially nothing on planet Earth that I'm cooking with tomatoes that I'm sad to have a little bit of basil and a little bit of salt. But I would prefer, and they do make some. I just don't think anybody stocks them. I like my tomatoes to say the first and only ingredient to be tomatoes. So whatever. In this case, whole peeled San Marzano tomatoes is what I want that to say. And Cento is like almost certainly the one that he's using. It says whole peeled San Marzano tomatoes, basil salt. Basil sea salt.
As they dry, better than more delicate herbs. So I would never use like dried parsley or basil or chervil or chives, but I would definitely I would use, oregano, thyme, marjoram, savory.
He's right, but that's also kind of a privileged point of view. Like, you can use dried parsley and dried basil.
You can go in with a hand blender. You can buy crushed tomatoes if you want. Oh, these are they're not the San Marzanos. This brand Cento also makes San Marzanos. This is just plain old Italian style. I don't know. I'm not as picky as most people are about their tomatoes.
Now that's interesting. I need to look at that because Cento does make San Marzano tomatoes. I always thought their Italian style had more basil in it. And that's what made it Italian style, not that it was not San Marzano tomatoes. It's fine. Like, if you can't get San Marzano tomatoes, those are tomatoes that are actually certified grown in San Marzano. They're grown in Italy. But essentially it's San Marzano tomatoes are just Roma tomatoes that are grown in Italy. And they do grow quite well there. Like, the terroir of them is advantageous. Very good product. But They're Roma tomatoes made in California. They're good.
I usually get Cento DOP San Marzanos from Italy, or I get Muir Glen, which are from the U.S. and consistently win like taste tests. Oh, this is a pastry cutter. This is what you use this to cut butter into flour when you're making pie dough and stuff like that. I think it's great for making like a rough textured tomato sauce like this. Just chops it right up.
Oh, that's people love to say that, Fraggy, and obviously, like you're the most knowledgeable. But like, we'd also say that if you go to New York, and you're gonna say like, yeah, that's because New York is like half Puerto Rican, maybe, but I got to tell you, like when I go to New York, I'm not worried about the Puerto Rican people. I'm scared of my fellow white people.
You can also use crushed tomatoes. You can use a potato masher, or if you want really rough texture, you can put those tomatoes into a bowl and just squish them with your hands before you make them in your sauce. But this is pretty good. Just going to let that cook down slightly.
You know, I just watched a video on harassment at work. And while I was saying all of that, Fraggy, my brain was like, stop talking about race. Don't say it. It makes everyone uncomfortable. Just saying, like, I don't mind that if I have to do certain things to be a little bit more secure. I still want to go.
We're going to wrap these back up again. Oh, let me throw these basil stems in here.
Yeah, like you said you were gonna. Hope I didn't make you uncomfortable, Fraggy.
Oh, people were asking me, what are all these onions doing here? These onions are here because we were planning on making some French onion soup at some point, and you need a buttload of onions to do that.
Yes, you do.
This, by the way, is lemon verbena. We grow it out in the yard.
Oh!
And we pick it and dry it, and then my daughter uses it to make tea because she likes to feel like a grown-up, and so she gets to have the lemon verbena tea. We have the grown-up tea, and everyone's happy. Lemon verbena is also just delicious. It's like one of my favorite herbs.
I do. I love French onion soup.
In Colombia, they drink a lot of agua de maca, which is like herbal teas. My wife is Colombian again. One of the most popular herbs there is lemon verbena, which they call citron. It's got the aroma of lemon, but not the tartness. There you go, nice and wrapped. We're gonna leave these again out at room temperature. And what's gonna happen is the dough's almost gonna kind of let it like stretch itself out. It'll relax and relax and relax, and it'll start going shh. And then, hopefully by the end we'll have very little actual work to do to get it to stretch into place. But we'll leave that, until it's relaxed, an hour or so, maybe a couple hours. I'll do the dishes.
Yeah. No, you should make it yourself sometime then.
All right, sauce simmering away.
Because I can totally see if you haven't had a good representation, bad French onion soup is just salt.
I don't know if I always use that much salt. I don't know. I was trained in restaurants, and we use a lot of salt in restaurants. And I have I'm the chef partner at a beer hall, and we want our customers to drink beer. So we make the food nice and salty. I would call it properly seasoned. I would say most people under-season their food.
He's also using diamond kosher salt, so that wasn't
chef's way of looking
that
at
much
salted
salt.
to whatever level you like it. I like it with plenty of salt. All right. That is good to go. All right. I will see you guys back.
Yeah, if he's using diamond kosher, which it looked like it was, that wasn't that much salt.
All right. I think we're back for... there'll probably be one more cut in the middle of this, but we're back now. We're about to finish stretching out and topping that pizza dough. So you can see it's been like almost 2 hours. Oh, you know what? I also looked up the recipe I have for this online, which is on Serious Eats. It's called Foolproof No Need Pan Pizza, something like that.
All right.
The recipe I used on Serious Eats is a little different from the one I kind of did by
that I did in this video. It has a little bit more water in it. That one is about 68% hydration. This one I think is 60 to 65%. Anyhow, all it does is goes to show you that it's a very forgiving recipe. It doesn't really matter too much how precise you are, as long as you get the sort of general idea right. All right, so what I'm going to do now, you can see the dough is nice and relaxed. It's started to stretch out already. I'm going to finish getting it around to the edges of the pans here. And if you see bubbles like that, just give them a pop, otherwise they'll kind of puff up and burn. And the one thing you want to do is make sure that there's no air trapped underneath the dough, because that'll prevent the bottom from crisping. And you really want it to get nice and crisp. Almost like ends up kind of frying in olive oil as it bakes. There you go.
Good shit.
Looking for. So all the way around to every corner, all the way around the edges like that. This one.
And arguably, olive oil a little bit healthier of a fat.
There.
Oh wow, mukbanging pretty hard here.
I think the one we put on, the one that's posted on Serious Eats also has a little bit less olive oil. I don't know why. I think it's because people get nervous about using so much oil, but it's the good fat, right? Good fat. Anyhow.
Yeah, I mean,
out to the edges. Let's make sure there's no.
You can eat whatever you want. You have to. It's how much you eat of what you want.
Make sure that there's no air and slide it down slowly.
If you're gonna have,
I heated my oven to 550 degrees, which is as hot as it goes.
I'm super not qualified to tell people how to eat,
which is
but
what you want to do because you really want that bottom to kind of fry and heat up really nicely.
lowest rack. Okay. Well, or in my case, if I do this, I now have a pizza steel, so I'm going to be setting it on a pizza steel.
Now, with a lot of pizzas, like a New York style pizza or a Neapolitan style pizza, you go pretty sparing on the sauce and the toppings and stuff. With this style of kind of
Not with pan.
You can be a little more.
Bomb me, baby.
This is still way too much sauce for all the pizzas, so we'll figure out something to do with it. Got your spoon.
Yeah, you can always throw. Always handy have. Shabu.
Try not to get too many of those.
That's his dog named Shabu, which is an adorable name for a dog.
Pick them out if you get them.
Yeah, if you're not going to blend the sauce, you're not going to want those in there.
You can top it any way you like. You can leave a border around it if you want. I think for this style of pizza, I kind of like having the sauce go
edge to edge,
and especially the cheese. It's kind of like if you ever had Detroit style pizza, which I also have a recipe up for on Serious Eats, but Detroit style pizza is really has that nice cheese crust.
I haven't managed to nail Detroit style pizza at home.
In fact, I don't know the right type of cheese at all. Like normally what I would do is I would get a block of full fat aged mozzarella.
Yeah.
Not the fresh mozzarella. This type of pizza, you don't want to use fresh mozzarella because it's just too wet.
Yep.
But today I couldn't find that at the supermarket the other day because things are slim pickings these days. So all I could get was this stuff. Finely shredded, low moisture, part skimmed cheese. We'll see how it turns out. Let's see what else we got. We got some chorizo, and I think we have some Parmesan crusts.
All right, you know what?
Oh, let's try some string cheese instead of the. Well, I'll do one with string cheese and one with the pre-shredded stuff. And here's some Parmesan.
Yeah, if you can't find full fat Motts, get full fat string cheese. It is just full fat Motts. And just cut it finely.
The real problem with the pre-shredded stuff is, first of all, that it's always low fat, which is not ideal for this type of pizza. But it's also that it has cellulose
potato starch
to prevent it from sticking, from clumping, and that can affect the way it melts. But we'll see what happens. All right, so we go all the way up to the edges here. We want that cheese to kind of melt into the edges. Really
okay, so I'm good.
Around the edge of that pan.
I'm getting speedy.
That, and then on this guy, let's see.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just, after having tried it again myself, like, it just doesn't work, in my opinion. Like, it's... So he's talking about doing what he has to right now because it's in the middle of the pandemic when he made this video. Yeah, it really doesn't. I agree.
Higher fat than the pre-shredded stuff. It definitely doesn't have the cellulose, so maybe this will work better. Oops, I hear my daughter calling. Hang on a second. All right, and back. So I got that mozzarella done. I got my daughter's issue taken care of. I'm just gonna cut this into chunks. I don't see why this wouldn't work, right? It's cheese is cheese. I've been on this kind of cheese and carb tear on these videos recently. I don't always eat like this. Just seems like this is the kind of stuff that's most conducive to YouTube videos, so I just do it. All right. You know what I mean? How do you feel about that? You mind all this cheese and carbs?
Man, cheese and carbs, good stuff.
Cheese up to the edges. We got this, we'll do a little bit of Parmesan on there too. And this guy.
You unwrap that? He must have.
We got that basil. We'll do some of it first so that it gets the aroma on there, and then some of it we'll add fresh at the end as well. Traditionally with like a Neapolitan style pizza, you put the basil on at the beginning, but these pizzas bake significantly longer than a real traditional Neapolitan pizza does. So,
okay.
I like to save some of that basil as well for the end so that you get some of that fresh basil flavor. Here's chorizo. Enough. Which guy should we go on here? Let's go on this one. So we can really load it up.
You're gonna put all that chorizo on one? All right.
Go.
I do think of pan pizza is like,
because they both had there's a lot of oil in that pan already.
It's a particularly decadent pizza.
So 550 degrees, real hot. Those are going to take about 10 to 12 minutes or so. All right, back for what has got to be the last time. We're going to go check on the pizzas. It's been about 10, 12 minutes or so. I don't know exactly how long it's been, but I'm going to leave that there because the pizza's going to land there. And let me get a little spatula. Don't. I'll just use a knife.
Yeah. Well, you're onto something. Yeah.
All right.
And again, I think chorizo is one of the least.
Good. Make sure that they're.
When I find something labeled chorizo, it doesn't help me understand the exact consistency of the product. I have seen all sorts of different things come out of chorizo packages. Like they definitely have a flavor profile that they shoot for, but like some of it's quite wet, and then that looked like a cured dried chorizo. So I don't know what that would be labeled. Is that labeled cured chorizo? Yeah, unfortunately, the quality of this video isn't high enough that I'd be able to read the package.
Getting there. So, looks like the tops are done, but the bottoms are not quite there yet. So what I do then, if that happens, an easy way to fix that. We'll go straight to the stovetop. There's that tomato soup I made earlier.
Dude.
And we're just going to finish it on the stovetop so the bottom crisps up. I'm gonna finish with that fresh basil.
That's boar's head. Take a look. Boar's head. Cured shirt. Okay. I can see the package. It's uncured. Is the new stupid thing in American meats. Like there's been some research out that cured meats are bad for you. So which that's true. They're slightly problematic for your health. I don't know. I'm not a nutritionist. I think the data that they used to get that could use a little bit more specific study before you make such a grand statement that all red meat and all cured meat is bad for you. But how companies have been getting around that is they will add some normal, naturally occurring product into food that adds as much nitrates as if they were cured, but because they didn't actually add any nitrates, they just added a food that contained nitrates, they can label it uncured, which is stupid. It's so stupid. It's all the same stuff. Like, if the other one's bad for you, this one is also bad for you. Anything you see labeled uncured in general is not better for you or any different anymore, really. It used to mean something, now it doesn't. But this is Boar's Head Superiore, Spanish style sausage. It would go bad as quickly as ground meat goes bad. Yeah. Yeah, just to let you know, like, don't feel like you've made like a good move for yourself today. Like, I was a good dog today. I bought uncured ham. No, it's the same. Ham's the one that really gets me, because uncured ham used to be a thing. Like, it used to be a different thing.
Do a little more Parmesan.
Yeah, that's the package for. And again, no MSG added. MSG is not any worse for you than salt is.
Let me see.
So in general, Miaskovich, the term natural is not regulated on almost any food.
There you go. It's starting to look golden. And it'll crisp up as it, when it's really hot, it won't be, the cheese crust will seem a little sort of limp, but as it cools just a little bit, it's going to start to crisp up. There you go. Now, it looks black, but that's actually what you're looking for with these cheese edges. They don't taste burnt. You're just going to have to trust me on that. They might look burnt, but they're not going to taste burnt. Look at that. Can you see that?
Yeah, you want some nice caramelized edges on a pan pizza.
Yeah. All right. Let's get this guy out of here.
Like, do your research on a per food product basis, but anything labeled natural is generally an unregulated term.
And you need another home.
Yeah, Fraggy, if you got a cast iron pan, this is the easiest pizza to make. Like, by far. This one will always come out for you.
Too much olive oil.
Like, I suppose you could... It is... I mean, you can burn anything, right? I feel like this is, like, one of the most forgiving and consistent
actually came out looking pretty good.
Yep.
I'm glad that worked. I'll get in the edges here. So you don't want to leave any of that crust behind?
Organic means different stuff based on the product. Some of it is useful, but it's not always. So
pizza cutter, pizza wheel. And let's see what we got as far as texture goes. Ready? Grab the camera. Oh, people were asking me about my setup. I use a GoPro, and this is the GoPro app on the camera, just so I can kind of see and make sure that everything's pointing in the right direction. Ooh, look at that pizza.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see. see how the top on that is like nice and loose and stretchy. And you're gonna see the top on the one that was made with part skim mozzarella is like over dry and almost has like a crispy film. And that film will tend to slide completely off of a pizza slice all in one go. Is like not ideal. So I think I'm with Miaskovich on this one. It's not. They're not really interchangeable.
All right.
I tend to agree with you, Miaskovich. I want one. I don't have space for one.
Bubbly. It's almost like focaccia, right? And in
Yeah.
fact, this recipe.
It basically is focaccia.
Focaccia recipe as well, and you bake it in kind of the same way. And let's look at the undercarriage there. See how nice and crispy and kind of fried it gets. And then, of course, there's this bit, which is that's the real stuff. This is what dreams are made of. Crispy cheese. It's way too hot for me to even take a bite of right now.
Literally right now, I don't, Miaskovich.
You know what I'm gonna do for the other one? Grab a bit of this.
Hot honey.
Mike's Hot Honey, good stuff.
All right.
Goes real well with cured meat on pizza. A little bit of spice and a little bit of, tiny bit of acid and and some sweetness, of course.
I am moving in
My favorite combinations: pickled jalapenos,
June.
pepperoni. And
I'm
hot
hoping
honey.
it's to somewhere for more space.
Actually, I probably
And
do.
I was thinking that earlier, Miaskovich, is that might be near the top of my stuff that I buy for myself when I get to the new places. I'd love a. My main problem with the pizza knives is that they don't go through. Like if I make a really crusty bread or pizza, they don't go through that.
All right, let's get 4 slices on this one.
I'm just using a knife anyway. It never goes through the crust.
Ooh, look at that. Delicious, delicious pan pizza. This is kind of like what Pizza Hut used to be like before they went all, I guess they were always corporate, but before they went like super corporate. All right, let's see if I can actually take a bite of this.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt.
They still occasionally make pan pizza. But yeah, they did used to be big on pan pizza. I remember when you went and ate in at a Pizza Hut, like your pizzas came out in a pan, like in a carbon steel pan.
The dog's waiting for it. Sit. Sit. Down. Wait. 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 Come on, here you go. One for you too. Come on, buddy. Here you go. Shabu. No. Back up. Back up. Here you go. All right.
Shabu would really like another one.
And now it's dinner time.
Carbonator, as in like a soda stream, or oh, well, let us. What here? Hang out. Let's go back. Let's go back here, real quick. Let's go. Serious Eats. Let's go to Serious Eats. Let me see. Recipes. Let's search. No need. So, Jim Leahy is a New York baker that came up with a lot of the no need techniques, or at least he was the first one to like widely disseminate them to non-bakers. I've always wanted one of those carbonators to talk to you because I had somebody had a good idea the other day, is that they literally freshly squeezed orange juice, like from not traditional oranges, like just the stuff that you can get at the store, and then they carbonated it. Don't get me wrong, it's still not good for you. It's still sugar water, but that sounds amazing. Foolproof pan pizza. Skillet Neapolitan. Tell you what. Oh my goodness. Holy crap. No. Yes. Is he in here?
There are these mysterious piles of bread that appear everywhere in my life. And
oh, Jim Leahy. Holy shit. It's the man. Also, look at this. Look at this fresh-faced child. Dude, how old do you think Kenji is here? Holy shit. He looks like 12. This is awesome. I was not aware that Jim Leahy had ever made a video for anything.
Seats. I'm here with Jim Leahy of Sullivan Street Bakery. We're talking about his new book, My Pizza, and he's going to show us how to make some pizza in his home.
Absolutely. We're going to eat some yummy pizza together. Awesome. And I did not say that. This is how to make no-knead dough.
This is Leahy's famous no-knead dough.
So the idea of like, oh, we're going to make a no-knead bread without using a recipe is as simple as having flour and water, a little bit of salt. We have some yeast, right? Mr. Leahy always has some yeast on hand. Aha! Yes! So I mix the ingredients together, right? Just like this. And then I'm going to do this without having to really knead it.
You can develop gluten the same way you can kneading it just by...
yeah, I think it's actually better because you don't oxidize the wheat. And at the end of the day, it's about viscosity. So maybe it's a little on the wet side, but this is good. I don't need to add any more than this.
So that's it, though. That's done.
So he is correct. I'm interested to know what he means by that. He says that what he just said there is so it doesn't oxidize the wheat. What I do know is that the more oxygen that yeast gets, it produces different compounds. So I'm wondering if some of those compounds are like more on like the acetyl end and less on like the ethyl end. I should stop trying to comment on that part of it because we're getting into some chemistry that I'm not smart enough to understand. I would love to talk to like a food scientist or a chemist about that. Like, what are these? What do they mean for the taste? Oh, sweet! You got the real those big chunky aluminum CO2 cans.
Ferment until it...
Yeah, homebrew store. Very good.
And we popped.
And how long does that take?
With the quantity of...
Just saying, man. You got all the stuff. You know what you need to do. You got all the stuff, or most of the stuff. You got the hard part of cider. You should make you drink it all? You drink a little bit, right? You should make yourself a little hard cider this fall. 'Tis the season, man. Just before Thanksgiving, get some nice cider, and then you can put it into a keg, a little mini, one of your little bottles, and carbonate it. Get Anne Reed from How to Cook. That rings such a bell, Miaskevich. I wonder if I've... That name and that name rings a bell. PvP event rolled in ESO. ESO has PvP events? Oh man.
The temperature of the room, and perhaps even the temperature outside, maybe 9 hours, 8 hours.
9 hours. Okay,
Yeah.
so it'll just sit there, cover it up, let it sit there.
Yeah, and then at like 4 in the morning, I'll wake up, and make myself some pizza. Just kidding. You're gonna get the same elasticity.
He's not kidding.
Simply by handling it a couple of times.
Right, and that's all. It's all because of the long
fermentation.
The really long fermentation.
So if you like knock it down and then make little.
Bouncing around. How to cook that? Ooh. Dude, you know what? I'm going to subscribe to remind myself. This seems right up my alley. I do think I have seen some of her work. I do think I have.
Little balls. So what we want to do, Kenchi, is open up the dough and stretch out the edge, just the very edge. Look, really gentle, barely holding on to it, so that's kind of all the same thickness. You have a disc that's a little wider, right? It hasn't deflated. Well, go toward the very outside, the very rim.
There's a couple of things about. Everybody wants to feel like they have an edge on cooking technique. That is the most benign reasoning for a lot of these things. So people, your mom will teach you ways that she knew how to make stuff that her grandma taught her how to make stuff that seemed to make sense at the time, but like it doesn't hold up under scrutiny. So it's good to point that stuff out. There is also something within humans that when we talk about what we eat and trying to understand it, we turn into dark crystal energy creatures where it's just like, oh, well, this, you got to do this because it's clean. And because when your body processes it does the pH and it moves it like that. And like almost all of the stuff when people start talking like that is almost all bullshit. Like they have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Got to be really careful with that sort of thing. Yeah, and I think it's just all born out of you want to feel like you're in control of what you eat. So you want to feel like your decisions about what you eat make sense and are clear. And yeah, it just leads to people grasping at straws for nobody likes to not know things.
And try to thin out the rim, okay? When you get the dough to a big enough size, then you can just knuckle it, And you might feel...
If you... I can tell you right away, these techniques are not going to work for you if you're going to use a low carb alternative. You have to look up techniques that are specifically for those. These recipes are all based around gluten, which is not going to work in the same way, and sometimes is going to be totally absent from those other flour alternatives that you're using. So I'm big on, I've had some really high quality cauliflower crusts that are delightful. You can totally have like a super, like I remember there was a place down the road from us in DeKalb that made cauliflower low carb, zero carb pizza. It was, I guess the only carbs would have come from the sugar and the tomatoes. So very, very low carb pizza. And to me, I was just like, I ate it. I'm like, that's pizza. Like, there's nothing weird about it. It's just pizza. So I'd just be tempted to tell you to try that just because I had such a good experience with it. Like the crust was firm and crispy, had a lovely crunch, and tasted like pizza. You've made a pizza crust with canned chicken, herbs, and that's clearly not the same as these. Yeah, and it's because when you use flour, you're playing the game with gluten. And like, that's not a dirty word. Gluten just is a function of wheat flour. So if you're not using wheat flour, you're playing. It's like saying, "Hey, let's play Parcheesi," and slamming down a chessboard. Like you can't play Parcheesi on a chessboard. You need a Parcheesi board. It's just a different function. You can still make really tasty stuff, but I mean, you also can alternate. Like, and again, Talk To, I know. Talk To cares very deeply about what they eat, and they put a lot of work into it. So I don't want to say anything that, like, I know you've thought about this stuff, and I want to be respectful of that. Like, also just make a pan pizza and eat less of it. That's kind of what I do. Is this like probably what I'll end up doing when I get back? I'm not on my diet right now because I can't control a ton of factors, so I don't care at the moment. But when I get back onto it, probably what I'll do is I'll make a pan pizza and I'll eat 2 pieces of it and I'll give my partner the rest and I'll have a big salad. Eat less evil.
Feel because this dough has a slight skin that there's a little stickiness to it every so often, right? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that now. If you want, I mean, if you really go look really close to the edge, see how my fingers are almost just like right at the very edge of the dough. You see what I'm saying? Right at the edge. Don't be afraid. Almost punctured it. Almost lost it. And then, you know, if you do this long enough, you'll get a disc that opens up. When it gets this big, you saw I just dipped it in flour.
Our pies are not always round.
Always make it bigger than you actually want it to be.
It's going to pull back a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to shrink, right? So here we have a dough. It's beginning to shrink a little bit. How many people, when they cook from a cookbook, the recipe is a springboard for something else?
This is just sharp provolone? Is that what
Yeah, sharp provolone. Such a yummy cheese. A little bit of ginger, shredded, kind of coarse. I don't mind if I get a nice piece of ginger, garlic. And then typically what I do with mozz,
Buffalo.
is try to like crumble it and tear it.
Good shit.
Oh, chili pepper, that's right.
Yeah, so you might notice also, he's probably just not going to put...
I like to have a little crunch, you know what I mean?
Okay, you're getting weird with it
A
now.
little bit of salt, I think it needs a little bit. I feel like, just for kicks, just feel this.
Is this coriander?
Yeah, throwing a couple of coriander seeds on here.
Okay.
I don't know why. But you see,
You've totally lost me. That's kinky. Coriander seed broccoli, Rob. You're dabbling very close to not pizza. Anyway, he's a legendary baker. I'll listen to him about dough.
that's the way I think. You ever
That-
I just try something a little different.
Especially since Sullivan Street's in New York. Sullivan Street Bakers, isn't it? Sullivan. Yeah, it's in New York. I mean, there's a demographic for everything in New York, but yeah, you know, the scene from what's it called? The Pixar movie about emotions. It has Jack Black as anger. Congratulations, San Francisco! You ruined pizza! Inside Out. Thank you. That is a California pizza right there, if I've ever seen one.
You know, I love toasted seeds.
You just have the pizza stone.
Preheated 500
And
degrees.
it's just
and then when I get to 500 degrees, maintain that temperature, and then you put the broiler on full blast.
What are you aiming for? 2
At
minutes?
least the amount of time possible. Always is the objective.
Right.
What does the recipe say? Because maybe we're right on target. You know what I mean?
It says 3.5 minutes.
We're done. See how wet it is?
Yeah.
That's because of the whey.
Okay, so he did end up putting cheese on it.
Fresh.
But just like, I mean, the bubbles are amazing.
Yeah. And the bottom probably is hammered.
Yeah, the buffalo.
Look at this. Whoa. Ooh. Ooh. They're pretty. They got noise. Do that noise. Crunch. What's it doing there?
I think it's pretty phenomenal.
It does have a good texture, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
No, but it's amazing you get that super thin crust, but this very airy, slightly moist, chewy from a home oven. Most people don't get.
Yeah, no, the recipe in the book is very, very simple. Very easy to do. Ooh. What, hot? Bring yourself? Chili?
Chili.
Nice, right?
Yeah.
Not too hot, right?
I think I just got a big chunk of.
You're lucky. I haven't hit one yet.
Updated August 31, 2023. Let's chat about it. Yeah, I need it. I need it. That's a little kinky for me, but also imagine you're a baker and that's what you do all day. So like, you know, he probably makes it. Sounds like he very regularly makes pizza, so if you make pizza a whole lot, you start to be like, hey, what else can I do with it? Longer fermentation time allows enzymes to break down the flour's protein, resulting in a stretchy, fully leavened pizza dough with no physical kneading. Breathe the dough gently so it holds its character and texture. Sullivan Street Bakery or Sullivan Street Pizza? Yeah, that said, when Mark Bittman and Jim Leahy dropped the no-knead bread recipe on the world back in 2006, like, that is now the way that people tell you to make bread at home. And, like, he was the first person to articulate it for, he's the first person to articulate it for home bakers. Like, I think before then, it really is kind of a new thing of people, like, rediscovering. You know, it's a counterculture movement. You can have everything you want at the tip of your fingers instantly, and a lot of it's not very good. So when you make stuff yourself, like, it's better. Like, a lot of the stuff you make at home is just better. Okay. Let's skip ahead to the pizza. You totally should. I don't know. Should I read an article? Hold on. I just sped read some stuff and I enjoyed it. Any New Yorker who eats bread has most likely tried some of the magical edible stuff that Jim Leahy produces at Sullivan Street Company, Sullivan Street Bakery, or at Sullivan Street Pizza, formerly known as Co. That was just Company CO. Through meticulous scientific investigation. Oh, what you gonna try to make today? Talk to this no-knead pizza? Let me ping you this. This is a good one. Through meticulous scientific investigation, I finally discovered the true secret to getting bread as good as Leahy's on a completely 100% consistent basis. Get Jim Leahy to make it. Okay, so I admit, it's not a particularly practical method, and my sample pool here was one. That said, when Mark Bittman and Jim Leahy dropped the no-knead bread recipe on on the world back in 2006 with a single short YouTube video. They did more to improve home baking than perhaps any other single event in history. I know that I've personally never looked back. And he has an article where he goes into the science of why it works. And when Kenji goes into the science, he goes way in. Leahy's first book, My Bread, was all about the no-knead method. The way you do it, just mix flour, salt, yeast, add water, stir it all together, and let it sit covered in a bowl for 8 or 9 hours. Over the course of this long fermentation, enzymes break down the large flour proteins into smaller segments that can then be quite easily cross-linked into stretchy sheets of gluten. You wind up with dough sheet that stretches as if it had been perfectly kneaded without any of the oxidation that occurs with actual kneading. The result? Perfectly textured bread with next to no work. Leahy's book, My Pizza, promises to do that for pizza what My Bread did for bread. It's largely based on his no-knead dough with dozens of recipes for topping combinations that are tomato-based, white sauce-based, and completely sauceless. You'll find most of the pies from Sullivan Street Pizza within its pages. If there's one thing any home baker can tell you, it's that it's nearly impossible to get the same bubbly crisp charring that you get from a real deal wood-fired Neapolitan pizza oven. Check out the video below as Jim Leahy shows us that not only it's possible, it's pretty darn easy to do. Well, he has a pizza stone. He has a nice pizza stone. First, a note from Leahy. While I'm not picky about the flour, either bread flour or all-purpose is fine, what does concern me is how the dough is handled. Treat it gently so that the dough holds its character, its texture. When you get around to shaping the discs for pie, go easy as you stretch it to allow it to retain a bit of bumpiness. I think of it as blistering. Not all the gas is smashed out of the fermented dough. Prefer to hold off on shaping the ball until just before topping it. If it's going to sit there for a while, more than a couple of minutes, cover it with a damp kitchen towel to prevent it from drying out. I offer you 2 approaches for shaping. The simpler one, executed completely on the work surface, is slower than the second. Relift the disc in the air and stretch it by rotating it on your knuckles. Lifting it into the air, shaping it is more fun too. I call that the hand-over-hand method, where you stick like your fists into and rest the dough on top of them, and you just slowly rotate it on your fists, and the weight of the dough will sink and stretches out. You can also man, it's so easy to describe these verbally. You can do a stretch and pull method on the cutting board. Let me see. Fine. Shoot. I've got so many things I follow. One of these is a pizza shop. What are these in order of? The last time they updated? These don't appear to be in any particular order. Or they're ones that I have new videos to watch. Is it just one pizza? Nah, that's it. Yeah. There you go. Okay, this guy's going lightning fast, but this method. Here, no. Let's go back before we lose our mind here. Because this guy's a pro and he's using a dough that can handle it. So do not think that you can do this. Like, we are mere mortals. This guy makes pizza 12 hours a day, like 6 days a week. We are not him. And we won't be without a ton of work. But if you can see, my cursor isn't on the screen. So I did that on purpose. If you can see with his left hand there, he is like making a press with the dough, and he does it kind of back and forth with both hands. But what you do is you like hold one dough with the crust in place, and then you stretch with the other. And you're going to do it way slower than this. But you can see that like he's pulling out and forming the crust simultaneously. Then something key to note here is if you are not getting to the size that your recipe calls for, so like if it's like for a 12-inch pizza and you're not getting there and it just won't stretch further, what it is there's too much, the gluten is too tense in your dough, and you just need to cover it and walk away for 15 minutes. And, learn. Like, I did that last time, and it could be that my dough had more gluten than I wanted. And it did make a very firm, very crunchy pizza, which was tasty, but was exactly what I was looking for Neapolitan, and wasn't what I was looking for most other stuff. So here he's got 500 grams AP flour. Please weigh it. Do anything. You can get kitchen scales at the grocery store for like $5 or $6. Get a scale. 1 gram or a quarter teaspoon of active dry yeast. You're probably going to have to eyeball that one with a quarter teaspoon, just because 1 gram is lower than what most scales will go to. I'm a geek. I have a 100-gram scale, which is accurate to the 100th of a gram, and I specifically have it for weighing yeast. Weighing yeast and salt in baking recipes. You don't need that. I'm a geek. And then 350 grams water. All right. Shall we calculate, folks? What baker's percentage is this? So we're going to take 350 grams of water divided by the total number of flour, which is 500. And that is a 70% hydration dough. Also, this is probably not what I'm going to use, because this is pretty much Ken Forkish's dough. Yeah, this is pretty much it. And it's the same method. So I'm not going to use this, but you totally, please, hydrate. Yes, please. Thank you, Fraggy. Let's go, but I do want to stick on serious eats. Let me do New York style pizza. We have a New York style pizza sauce. That is a thing. Oh man, you don't have A. Kenzie Lopez Alt. How to find an order. All right, let's do Kenji Pizza. I might take a look at that. And pizza recipe. I don't wanna buy out, I wanna make it. Foolproof pan pizza, Sicilian. I do want to do Sicilian. Detroit style, it's on my to-do list. To do Detroit style, to do it right, you really do need a special pan, though. You can make something close-ish in a in a sheet pan or a 13x9 like brownie dish, but in order to really nail it, you need a carbon steel pan. I haven't invested in it yet. New England Greek style pizza, negative. French bread pizza, absolutely. Dude, like a super legit tasty thing to do is French bread pizza. Like, and this uses like the cheap stuff that you get from the grocery store. Don't make it nice. Like, that is not what this is for. You want the squishy stuff from your grocery store bakery. Tortilla pizza. Well, bummer. I was hoping that... Let me look at his... And does he have his pan pizza recipe? Let me see what it is. I do like pan pizza, but that's not what I was going to try and do. Do you have any fat in it? He said you can stretch it. 8 grams of extra virgin olive oil. It's low. What that's like... Would 40 be 10%? 40 times 10? No. Yeah, 40 times 10 is 400. Yeah, so 40 would be 10%. So a little less than 10%. Do I want to try this? This does have ratios for a enriched dough, which is something that I don't have. I have Ken Forkish's book, which you if you're interested in baking, you absolutely should buy. It's called Salt Water Flour Yeast. Right. I can pull it up. Salt Water Flour Yeast book. It is, yeah, salt water, salt yeast, flour, water, salt, yeast. That guy right there. Nope. Show me the cover again. That guy. It's a good book. If you want to mess around with bread baking at home, this is a very, very good book. Oh, did that win a James Beard Book Award? Good for him. It deserves it. I didn't know that. Good for him. I have not... He's another person that I don't know that he's ever made videos. But this is just a great book for... I'd say for the intermediate baker. Like, you don't... I think if you have never baked before, this book is going to be a little intimidating to you. So I would not start here. But if you're interested in baking, and like a full third of this book is about pizza. Is this what I'm doing, chat? Let's see. Does he say? Because he says in his other one that you can make a New York style pizza with it. I love pan pizza. Chicago style. Nope. Transferring. No kneading. No stretching. One of the happy side effects of lose my self-form the dough. Only impacts friction. So it's 70% hydration. It's a no need. So here's the difference. Here's the difference. this is a no need. This is a no need recipe, and I'm gonna need it. What did I make last time? Kenji. Oh, Berea, I wish. Partner won't eat Berea. I can't remember. Same day, 1 year ago, 4 years ago. This.
Hey everyone, it's Kenji. We're going to make some New York style pizza with a same day dough, like a real easy New York style dough recipe. So first thing, I want to start with a scale. Using a scale is important when baking because volume.
So this recipe is 64% hydration. Wah. Chat. Wah. Because you know what really sucks? He does not have this recipe written. I'm going to have to transcribe it. Here we go. J. Kenji Lopez. NY style. Here we go.
Volume measurements just are not precise enough.
Yep.
Measuring a cup of flour could weigh anywhere from 100 grams up to 180 grams, depending on how you scoop it or measure it. So
yep.
Always use a scale for this. So I'm
use a scale.
500 grams of all-purpose flour. You could use bread flour if you want, a little bit of a sturdier crust, a little bit something more, bready, a little chewier. But I like all-purpose flour for this one. 500 grams. This is going to make enough dough for two 16-inch pies. Relatively thin 16-inch pies or slightly thicker, like 14.
I'm going to write down yield 2 14
inch pies, but this will be enough for at least 2 pizzas. So 500 grams of flour, close enough. This is King Arthur flour, by the way.
Yes.
You can use whatever flour you want. I've done this with gold medal. It works just fine. We're going to do 12.5 grams of salt.
12.5 grams of salt.
So that's about 2.25%. Sorry, 2.5%.
The percentages he's saying are baker's percentages. Baker's percentages want to know what percent of the total weight of flour. So he's using 500 grams of flour. 100% weight would be 500 grams. So 50 grams would be 10% weight. It's not weight of the total final product. It's the weight percentage of the total amount of flour. Because you can use that ratio to make really repeatable results in your baking. And bear in mind, we're making pizza, we're bread baking. Pizza is bread baking. Like, we don't think of it as bread baking because it has its own culture. But it's just bread baking.
It's basically everything, you weigh everything as a percentage of the total amount of flour. So if we're starting with 500 grams of flour, we add 2.5% of that in salt, which is 12.5 grams. We're going to do 2 grams of yeast here.
By the by, as soon as he goes in, that for yeast, that spoon is huge.
Roughly 0.5%. I'm going to be. It doesn't matter too much. You don't have to be too precise here. I went a little over. That's fine. This is instant yeast, by the way. You want to use instant yeast for this.
Yes.
Quick rise. They call it rapid rise. I'm going to add.
I mentioned this earlier. Don't, for whatever reason, the industry of people that are making recipes for high skill home bakers, people interested in making things with really repeatable results, have completely gone away from active dry yeast. It's just not a thing anymore. I don't know all the reasons. Instant yeast, or some brands label it rapid rise or rapid yeast. Instant yeast is where it's at. There is a that's what all people that are really into baking use now is instant yeast. I think it's just its results are more consistent than active dry. Also, active dry needs to be proofed, which you need to like mix it in some water and let it get foamy first. It's just an extra step that you don't need. So 2 grams of instant yeast.
1% sugar. So 5.
Okay. What does he say?
Grams of sugar.
5 grams. I should figure out the percentages of all these and note them.
That's gonna, for same day dough, adding a little sugar is going to help sort of feed that yeast a little bit so it rises a little faster. It's also going to help the dough color a little bit more. So
Maillard reaction.
Let the dough come together, and then you let it rest. Let it ferment in the fridge, cold ferment for a few days. It's going to brown better, and it's going to obviously the yeast is going to have a little more time to work on it. The longer you ferment a dough, the better it browns. So a younger dough like this that you're going to use the same day, adding a little bit of sugar to it is going to help it brown a little more effectively. All right, and so now we're going to add 20 grams here. It's 4%. I'm doing vegetable shortening. You could also use olive oil. Oops, that's a little too much. You could use olive oil. You could use corn oil. You could probably use butter or lard. I've never tried that. Yeah, I'll go with that. I'm going to keep this one a little bit extra fatty today. So what the fat does is that it interferes, so there's this balance in play going on in the dough between sort of, gluten development, which is the protein structure in there that's going to give it its texture and its chew. But if you have too much of that, it can be a little too tough. And so when you add fat, it kind of coats some of the flour. It interferes with the gluten formation and therefore makes the dough a little more tender. So fattier doughs, so something like a brioche you think about, and it's very tender, and it's because of all that butter in there. So adding a little bit of fat to a pizza dough is going to make it a little more tender. It's also going to help it brown a little more. And so now we're going to add the water. This is a 60% hydration dough, so I'm going to add 300 grams of water. And this is warm water, by the way, about 90 degrees. 100 grams of water. And this is a 60% hydration dough, so I'm going to add 300 grams of water. And this is warm water, by the way, about 90 degrees. 92 right there. Warm water, again, just so that yeast has a little bit of a kickstart. 300 milliliters, which is 300 grams.
So, well, and you could talk about, it absolutely is. Baking is edible chemistry, 10,000%. But even that, it's making your own little zoo. You are using colonies of little living boyos that are helping make your yeast do it all. Yes, Miaskovich, I say that to lots of people. Cooking is an art, baking is science. There's a little bit like certain things that like I never worry about when I'm cooking. I totally like to worry about when I'm baking. Like if I'm making cookies, like I love using a disher to put out my cookie dough balls because they are more consistent, and consistency helps get you where you're going.
You'll note that also some people might refer to this as an effective hydration. So just the water is 60%, right? So you would say 300 grams of water for 500 grams of flour. So you would say that's 60% hydrated. Some people also include the fat in a dough for a measurement called, the effective hydration. So 300 grams of water plus 20 grams of fat is an effective hydration of 64%, which is on the lower end. 60% is on the lower end for a New York style pizza, but it does make it so that this dough will be.
Do I have the ability to pour stuff into my food processor while it's running? Can't remember. I probably do. I might pour the water in while it's running. Just because I have a bad problem with my food processor when it's making floury stuff. It doesn't get down into the sides.
Be very easy to work with.
Using a
All right, so let's get this camera going. So now what I'm going to do,
using a stand mixer like this is far more effective.
With a food processor, you could do this with just by hand on a counter in a bowl. But the first thing you want to do anyway, though, is just mix together the dough until the point that it just comes together into sort of a shaggy ball. At this stage, you don't really need to work it too much. So what's happening is as the flour gets hydrated, as the water works its way into the flour, that process can take a little bit of time. So you can let that time occur while you're kneading, but until that water is fully hydrated, until that flour is fully hydrated with the water, it's sort of difficult to knead properly. And so you're better off just bringing it together into a ball, which is what I'm going to do here, and then letting it rest for a while, letting it sit for about 15 to 30 minutes. And what happens in that 15 to 30 minutes is that the flour will slowly absorb the water, so the dough will become properly and fully hydrated.
Yeah, you're right, Meowscritch. They do usually have that.
Enzymatic breakdown of some of those flour proteins going on in there, which also sort of aids in making it easier for you to then subsequently start kneading them and get them to sort of link up together, which is what the process of kneading is, linking together all these flour proteins into a matrix called gluten. All right, so we're getting pretty close. Oops. So you can see this dough is a relatively dry dough, but don't worry, it's not gonna look this dry when we are done with it here. It's gonna feel, if you're doing this by hand especially, this process might take 5-10 minutes, and it's gonna feel real stiff, real stiff and dry, and that's totally normal.
And again, you can do this by hand. Like you're just trading some time and elbow grease.
Grab the dough here and use it to kind of clean up the sides of the bowl. Make sure that's all incorporated. Okay, close enough. All right, so now I'm gonna let this just sit here for about 15 minutes or so. So I will be back in 15 minutes or so, maybe more like 20 minutes.
Build this to 14-inch. Place all in. Process. So just I'll post this recipe on my Discord.
So you can see this dough has become a lot softer, squishier. You know, it's really starting to hydrate. It's also holding its shape more, you know, so it doesn't come off on my hands as much as it did before. So it's sticking to itself more. So those are all good signs that the flour is hydrated and we're ready to knead. So at this point, with a stand mixer, we're going to knead it basically until, I'll do it at around speed 3 here on a KitchenAid. We're going to do it until this forms a relatively smooth, satiny ball that doesn't have too many lumps. It should take a few minutes. You can do, if you were doing this in a food processor, you would basically turn on the food processor, let the dough come together, shut it off, let it sit 15 minutes, and then later on go back and turn it back on and let it ride around the blade for about 30 seconds or so, and that'll do you.
For a stand mixer. Anybody in here have a stand mixer? I don't. I really want one. I do. I probably only use it on the order of once a month, but I want one first. Let run at he say specifically here. Let me finish. For a food processor, run and let run approximately.
Back in a food processor, doesn't have we're going to do it until this forms a relatively smooth, satiny ball that doesn't have too many lumps. It should take a few minutes. You can do, if you were doing this in a food processor, you would basically turn on the food processor, let the dough come together, shut it off, let it sit 15 minutes, and then later on go back and turn it back on and let it ride around the blade for about 30 seconds or so, and that'll do you. And if you're doing it by hand, once you get to this stage where the dough has rested, you want to get it onto your cutting board.
Did he say
the blade for about 30 seconds or so, and that'll do you. And if you're doing it by hand, once you get to this stage where the dough has rested, you want to get it onto your cutting board and do, onto your work surface and do some of these where you...
Yep, here you go. Hand kneading.
Squish it, turn it. Squish it, turn it.
If you want, you can give it some big boy slaps like he did when he took it out of the
just like that.
ball and he like slapped it down on the...
Different people have different ways of kneading, of course.
You can give it a couple of those.
Whatever you need. All right, so I'm going to let this go until it forms a smooth ball. That'll take another couple minutes, all right? So I will see you in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I said 5-ish minutes. That's probably right.
All right, so you can see how this ball is has gotten pretty smooth and sandy. I could let this go a little bit longer, but I think we're going to be fine just here. Yeah, as long as it pulls off relatively cleanly like that.
Well, now I have to get this going because
it's called the bulk fermentation.
Aktu needs this recipe.
Initial rise that the dough gets before you divide it and shape it into
there you go.
Sort of pieces.
I want these and I don't need them.
Pizza.
I'm resisting.
A little bit of oil in there. A little bit of olive oil.
He has pizza-specific proofing pans.
So this initial bulk fermentation, the idea is that we're giving the dough, the yeast, some time to work.
Okay, Meowskovich, it was super awesome to hang out with you. Thanks for saying hi.
Flavor, but also, of course, is going to stretch the dough out, provide bubbles in there, give the gluten a little more structure. And then after that, we're going to divide it into its final shapes. The bulk fermentation part, we're going to do it only for, you could do it anywhere, at room temperature, anywhere between, half an hour, since this is a warm dough, half an hour up to a couple hours. Anywhere in that range is okay. If you did want to do a cold fermentation step, you could take this dough, pop it in a sealed container with enough room to rise, and then throw it in the fridge for up to 5 days or so.
Cold Here, I'm going to say shape balls, place in lightly oiled container with a lid. Now, with a lid, what do I mean by that? Like he's got these nice tins that have purpose-built lids. That's totally fine. You can. I'm glad, Malskitch. I'm gonna try and do this more because I love this shit. And like this is how I think about learning to cook stuff. A lot of times. So with a lid, you can put it into a bowl covered with foil or plastic wrap. Or what I do is you can either take your biggest pot lid, or if you have a circular baking sheet, place it over top of whatever bowl you're using. Or like depending on the shape of the bowl, maybe a plate. Sometimes the plate fits really well. Okay, cold ferment. You can at this point, you can put the dough, and it will good 24 hours up to as much as 5. Anything that slows down yeast makes bread taste better. You want that. I wax philosophic on that at the beginning of this VOD. But you want to slow down as much as you can within your ability to make the pizza. You want to let the yeast have as long to work as you can. Which is why I need to hustle, because if Talkto's making this pizza tonight, he needs to get going.
So, and it'll get sort of improve with time, or brown better.
He said it bulk ferment at room temperature for 30 minutes up to several hours.
With time, become a little stretchier. But all right, but that's about it. So I'm going to form this into a ball. The way I do that is I kind of push over with one hand and collect what I'm pushing over with the other hand and make kind of a little belly button on the other side, you know?
Yeah, what you could do, Talk to, is you could mix this, put it into a covered container, an airtight container, throw it in the fridge, and then, yeah, see if you can give it, try it, like if you get it done soon, cook it tomorrow night, and you might even need to pull it out. You're going to want to pull it out a couple hours earlier for a secondary proof.
You know, so like kind of collect it all into a little belly button type thing, and then plop it down on that side with my hands kind of flat towards the cutting board like this. You see I get under there a little bit and kind of tuck it all in, and then I'm just going to roll it around like that. For this initial bulk fermentation part, this part doesn't really matter too. The shaping doesn't matter too much because we're going to divide it and reshape it, but it always is nice to have a round thing that's a...
To Talk to, I sent you 2 recipes. The difference is Jim Leahy's recipe is a traditional baker's pizza type recipe. It is not enriched. So it's going to have... The best thing I could describe it is if you've ever had Neapolitan pizza, it tastes more like that. This is enriched. So this is going to taste more like New York style, more like... I hesitate to say like what you might expect from like a mainstream pizza chain. Because mainstream pizza chains do all sorts of weird stuff to get their pizza the particular texture that they shoot for. So this one is an enriched dough, which that's why there's a little bit extra manual labor. He's doing a little bit of extra stuff to it. It's because it's enriched. It's probably going to come out like a little fluffier and chewier, whereas the no-knead pizza from Jim Leahy will come out like lighter and crunchier.
relatively even shape so that you can really see how much it's rising. If you just throw a blob of dough in there, it's hard to tell how much it's risen. But with this one, we're going to see clearly as it expands to fill out the container. Right, so now this is going to sit at room temperature. I'm going to go do some work.
He's right.
Clean up here, but I will be back in a couple hours. All right, so I haven't opened this yet. It's been, I don't know, maybe two and a half hours actually, because I got caught up doing some of this stuff. So you can see, look at that. Rising nicely, nice and smooth, filled out the space nice and round. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna divide this ball into two. So I'm gonna get some more oil on there. Just a thin layer. And when you get a little excess oil on your hands like this, you just rub it on your board. It's good for the wood, and it's also gonna help your dough out a little bit here. All right, so we're gonna pop our dough out. I'm not using any bench flour. You shouldn't need any bench flour with this particular dough because it's relatively low hydration. You did warm water, so it's nice and developed. There's a little bit of oil on the outside also, so that prevents it from sticking much. So I'm dividing it in half. Each one of these is going to turn into a 16-inch pizza. So I'm doing the same basic thing. I'm gonna tuck it into a ball. The idea is that you want to get like a kind of stretched skin over the whole dough.
Hold on, I'm gonna call this bulk ferment, cold ferment. I'm gonna say room.
Dough over the whole dough ball. So you can see I kind of tucked everything in the back there, and now I'm kind of twisting and pinching this into a little belly button or a nipple or something like that. And then I'm gonna plop it down, face side down.
Thanks, Kenchi.
Same thing with this ball.
You anatomically describe your pizza ball.
I'm doing that. So really working my way around it, tucking in, and pinching with my thumb over here. Okay. And now I'm gonna finish off the same way. Hands relatively flat. Getting underneath it and kind of tucking those edges down in. And then finally, a little bit of like a loose hand, like you're gonna catch a baseball, you know, kind of a loose hand like that. Or catch a dodgeball. I don't know. I've been teaching my daughter to catch a baseball recently. It says it's a lot of like, no, protect your face. Don't let it, none of this, like let it go flying up into your nose. All right, so there you go. There's one ball of dough. Put it seam side down into our dough proofing container. If you don't have a dough proofing container, by the way, my favorite method of proofing dough, 2 bowls like this, just plop your dough in the bottom of this. Take a second bowl, put it on top, just like that. You got a seal, relatively good seal, and it'll proof nicely, and then it'll stay nice and round. That's really the key, is that you want your dough to proof in a container that's round, so that when you do pull it out and start stretching it, you're starting with a round shape. So starting round will help you get to a finished round on your pizza dough. All right. Just plop that down there.
Did he oil those?
For the second rise,
he did.
Rise,
place a lightly oiled I'm just going to say I have lightly oiled container with a lid, but both. Well, okay, you need another one is the kicker here. Oil. Ah!
I did for a couple hours. The second rise will also take a couple of hours. So we want this to.
Yeah, then. So if you're doing the cold ferment for tomorrow, what you're going to want to do is a couple hours before you bake. So if you're eating at like 5 or 6, at like 2 or 3, pull out the dough and let it divide it, and then do this second part at room temperature. And if you're coming straight from the fridge, you want to hurry things up. Like if you're doing it if you have to come home from work and do it, like set it on top of your oven and turn your oven on low. Like set it near like your oven vent. Give it a little temperature help. It'll go faster. Let rest for several hours or until doubled. People hate that until doubled, but like you really do need like it depends. Like the temperature and humidity of your kitchen are going to vary. Like I can tell you right now with my kitchen, like the temperature and humidity from summer to winter fluxes wildly. It's going to be very warm, very humid in the summer, and right now it's very cold and very dry, so it's not as conducive a place for yeast to grow.
Roughly double in volume, but really we're looking for the dough to kind of slacken up and become sort of easier to stretch. Right now it's pretty taut because we just shaped it, so after a couple of hours it's going to relax, it'll slacken out, it'll become much easier to stretch. These stack on top of each other nicely, and I will see you in a couple hours. All right, so we're ready to stretch and top and bake our dough. So you'll see I have in here in my oven, I've got it preheated at 550 degrees. I have it set on roast setting, which means that the heat comes not just from the bottom, but also from the back. And I have the fan on to circulate the air. So the way I've set this up, I have a baking steel on one pan. I prefer using baking steels to baking stones. They cook a little bit better because they have higher conductivity and higher specific heat capacity than a stone does. They also don't break like stones do. So I have a baking stone there, and just above it I have another stack of a couple of heavy metal things to really radiate heat down from the top. I'm going to keep the oven door closed. The reason I don't, so every oven's a little bit different. My oven, if you can see it, I don't know if you can, but if you can see it in the very back, the convection fan, the fan that here, let me see if I can the fan that heats up the oven is lower. If I were to move this baking stone up one rack.
So I have a baking steel talk to. I'm going to use in my recipe, write down baking steel. If you don't have a baking steel, use whatever it is you're going to use. If you're going to do unless you were planning on making pan pizza. But just back of a baking sheet, turn your baking sheet upside down and put it in and preheat it. That'll work fine. Back of a big pot. Was going to go with pan. Okay. So you can ignore this part entirely. You're just going to stretch it out in your pan. So, you have iron skillets. What kind of iron skillets? I mean, they're not pizza pans. I have like a cast iron fry pan, or I also have a stainless steel one, which would be fine. Like a cast iron's better because it's a little bit, it has to do with the specific temperature of it. If you want, there's a property of metal called specific temperature. Yeah, your typical cast iron pan. Yeah, no, that plus some olive oil, you're good. You're golden. And he's gonna shape this into a round and put it on a pizza peel and slide it in to a pizza. And he's gonna talk about getting heat certain ways and this and that. You don't need to do any of that. What you're going to do is you're going to put it in the pan. You're going to stretch it out towards the edges. If it struggles to get it to stretch out all the edges, all the way to the edges, just cover it, leave it for 15 minutes, come back, and then stretch it the rest of the way. Tell you what, I'm going to send you another video. I'll even go ahead and pause here. Well, no, I want to finish writing down this recipe, but you want is foolproof Jake and Oh, I'm showing off what I like to watch. Oh no. Ooh. And pizza. Yeah, here you go. Copy video URL that's going to talk to. Use that one, and then he has a link to the. Whoa. No. Is a link to the pan pizza there. I might do that. That might be next week. I've kind of already mentally committed to doing a different style of pizza on the stone, but I could still use my steel to make. It'll still help with even with pan pizza. I'm gonna I think I will make pan pizza next week.
It would be above the level of the fan, so the top of it wouldn't get hot. So I put it right down here.
Yeah.
Every oven is different, so you're going to have to experiment with what the best position for putting your...
Game. Thank you.
Your stone and stuff.
Windows.
Your stone or steel for baking is. But again, I do recommend a steel over a stone. All right. If you don't have either of those, by the way, you can use like an overturned skillet, like the biggest skillet you have, overturn it in your oven, preheat it with that, and then just scale your pizza recipe down accordingly. All right, so we have a nice round ball of dough. I'm sprinkling it with just a little semolina, not much. You don't need a ton of bench flour. Could be mainly just because if you get too much flour on your dough before you bake it, it's gonna burn on the dough, and you'll taste that in the final pizza. So we'll shake off some of the excess flour at the end as well. So you can see, first thing I'm doing, I'm trying to form, the little, what's called the cornicione, the bones, the crust. So I'm giving it a little bit of a dimpling with my fingertips to really separate that out. And then this intersection, I'm again using just the tips of my fingers, sort of gently start stretching it out a little. And once it starts getting a little bigger, we can use our hands a little to stretch it, just so we get into a nice, even, flat shape, remove some of those dimple marks from our fingers, and then we can pick it up and start working it with our knuckles like this. You see, so we mainly let the weight of the dough.
Yeah, and I think
pizza peel. So this is going to be a 16-inch-ish, I don't know, probably more like 15 and a half, just so that it doesn't fly off the back of the stone. But, it's around 16-inch pizza. And that thickness, stretching out this much dough to 16 inches is going to give you a thickness that is on par with sort of, the thinner side of what you would expect from a New York style slice. Certainly about on par with what you would get.
If mine ends up a little thicker, I'm fine with that.
That said, if you have trouble getting it to 16 inches,
it depends on what you're trying to do.
Whatever, maybe the flour you're using is a little different from mine, or maybe your day went a little different, or your dough over fermented. These are all things that have happened to me. If for some reason your dough isn't cooperating and you can't quite get it out to 16 inches, 14 inches is fine. Even thicker is fine. Your pizza's just going to be a little bit thicker. It's still going to taste good. Also, I'm using semolina to stretch out. You can use whatever you want. It doesn't have to be semolina. You can use regular flour. You can use something like cornmeal if you want. There's some New York pizzerias that use cornmeal. There are some
nothing wrong. I would use
old school places even that use breadcrumbs, like classic slice shops that use breadcrumbs instead of flour or cornmeal or even semolina. If anybody,
I would use cornmeal.
It can't be New York pizza unless you stretch it out in regular bench flour or regular wheat flour, or it can't be New York pizza because it's only 18 inches and not 20, or it can't be New York pizza because it's 6 slices. Whatever rules people make, like, you can probably safely assume that they're not actually from New York, or New York pizza, all it has to be is, served by the slice, pretty thin, and, able to be held and eaten as a single slice folded in half. That's sort of the only criteria I have really for a New York style pizza. Beyond that, like, all the details, you'll find examples far and wide throughout the city, and not just recent ones. You'll find old school examples.
He's got
It's about
topping the
16 inches, I'd
pizza.
say.
That's fine. It's gonna be a lighter topped pizza, probably. Are you from New York? When? Well, and also I should be clear. Are you from New York City? I didn't know that. I thought you were born in Kentucky.
A little pinch of salt. I know this is quite fatty mozzarella, so I'm not going to add olive oil to here. Sometimes I might add a little bit of drizzle of olive oil, but I know this stuff is very fatty and tends to kind of pool up with grease if you add extra oil, so I'm not going to. But you know, you do what
I
feels
got
right
you.
to you. Experiment a little, come up with a plan you like. All right, so now we can, when it's loaded up with toppings, it'll stretch out a little more and kind of hold its shape a little better because the weight of those toppings. And this is also a good opportunity to make sure that your pizza's freely sliding on the peel. You see? All right. Into the oven. I got my my Food Lab branded baking steel actually. So I know it's gonna go right up to the back edge there. Back to, let's make sure we fit on the front. There we go. And we're gonna pop it right back in. So you want to go, again, highest heat that your oven has, preheated to, and you know, some ovens are all different. So I used to have an oven where the broiler and the oven thermometer were completely separate. So even if the oven was preheated, I could still turn on the broiler. With this oven, once it gets above 500 degrees, the broiler will not turn on. So I cannot broil the top of the pizza here, which is why I use that baking stone arrangement. Ideally, in the ideal situation, you'll be able to preheat your baking steel right underneath the broiler element of your oven, and then as soon as the pizza goes in, you switch on the broiler so that you're blasting it with heat from the top and the bottom. And when you do that, you end up, you know, getting a pizza that can bake somewhere around maybe, you know, 5 minutes or so in a home oven. A real, you know, in a pizza shop in New York, those ovens, you know, our ovens at home go to 550 degrees, most people's, maybe 500 degrees. Pizza oven in New York is probably going to be closer to around 600 degrees, sometimes 650. You know, a Neapolitan style pizza, even hotter, that's going to be closer to, you know, 900 degrees or so. But, you know, so the difference is that the longer a pizza takes baking, you know, the cooler the oven, the longer it takes for the pizza to bake, the drier it becomes.
14-inch.
To get the sort of same color and puffiness on a pizza in a 500 degree oven, it might take you 6 to 7 minutes, maybe even longer, you know, depending on the style of dough. Like the same day dough might take even longer, maybe 7 minutes, we'll see. But in a really hot oven, it'll only take 4 to 5 minutes to get that color. And so what happens is that in the time that it's developing that color and that outer crust crunchiness, the inside is sort of starting to dry out. So a pizza that's baked really, really hot, like a Neapolitan style pizza that bakes at 900 degrees, you get a very, very thin layer of crustiness followed by this kind of like cloud of really moist interior bready crumb.
So I think I'm probably going to shoot for 5-ish minutes.
Pizza that we do in a home oven is going to be not quite as big of a contrast between the outer crust and that really poofy inner crumb. We're going to get sort of more of a crunchiness, but you know, hopefully a little bit of poofiness as well. Let's see how we're doing. We're going to rotate a couple times in the baking process. I don't know how long my blathering has been going, but it's starting to look good. We got some nice little bubbling going on there. The bottom is getting really nicely browned as well.
Yeah, it's hot.
Right, I will come back. I'm not going to blather anymore, but I will come back.
Two things. It's hot, and he made a recipe that pulled it pretty thin, and he topped it light. So that's a fast dough. Now, I'd love to have you come watch a wood-fired pizza place make a Neapolitan pizza. That is like 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Like it goes in and it is done. Like boom.
When the pizza is approaching.
But again, that oven, wood fired, will be 900 plus degrees.
Approaching done, so I'll see you in a few minutes later. So probably about, I don't remember, look at the clock, 5 minutes total, maybe 6 minutes.
Look at the clock. So yeah, 2:26. Let's see when he loaded it. 220. So I will say bake. I say 5-ish minutes. I think that's probably right. Like, what you gotta do when you're baking these pizzas on a pizza steel, you're gonna be peeking underneath it and looking at the crust. You gotta be involved. Now, talk to your tonight or tomorrow night. You're gonna make pan pizza. Way more forgiving than this for a bunch of reasons. It's being cooked in a vessel with olive oil, and also you're gonna top the top like with a ton of stuff. Like pan pizza is a heavy topped pizza. Those are gonna insulate the dough a little bit, so it's just not as picky, and it's probably gonna be more like 10-ish minutes. Isn't that how Dewey's does it? Yeah, I would say Dewey's is a New York style pizza. Like they kind of embrace, I feel like, the California side of it. Well, I don't know. We just talked to Jim Leahy, and Jim Leahy is like he's New York City baking made manifest. So he likes those weird vegetable-y things. Dewey's definitely does some of those more contemporary type ingredient blends. But yeah, I would totally call Dewey's a New York style pizza.
We're gonna pop it right back in.
Yeah, big, thinner,
highest heat that
like a little bit floppier of a pizza slice.
Some ovens are all different. So I used to have an oven where the broiler and the oven thermometer were completely separate. So even if the oven was preheated, I could still turn on the broiler. With this oven, once it gets above 500 degrees, the broiler will not turn on. So I cannot broil the top of the pizza here, which is
thankfully
why
I don't have that
stone arrangement. Ideally, in the ideal situation, you'll be able to preheat your baking steel right underneath the broiler element of your oven, and then as soon as the pizza goes in, you switch on the broiler so that you're blasting it with heat from the top and the bottom. And when you do that, you end up getting a pizza that can bake somewhere around maybe 5 minutes or so in a home oven. A real in a pizza shop in New York, those ovens. Our ovens at home go to 550 degrees. Most people's, maybe 500 degrees. Pizza oven in New York is probably going to be closer to around 600 degrees, sometimes 650. A Neapolitan style pizza, even hotter. That's going to be closer to 900 degrees or so. But so the difference is that the longer a pizza takes baking, the cooler the oven, the longer it takes for the pizza to bake, the drier it becomes. So to get the sort of same color and puffiness on a pizza in a 500 degree oven, it might take you 6 to 7 minutes, maybe even longer. Depending on the style of dough. Like the same day dough might take even longer, maybe 7 minutes.
Yeah, he's talking about it.
But in a really hot oven, it'll only take 4 to 5 minutes to get that color. And so what happens is that in the time that it's developing that color and that outer crust crunchiness, the inside is sort of starting to dry out. So a pizza that's baked really. A little bit of some of the fancy extra virgin olive oil just for some extra flavor there. All right, pizza, here we go. How's that look? Whew. Not bad for a same day dough, huh? Little olive oil.
Good shit.
A little fresh basil. Let's get the stems out of there. And a little bit more Parmesan.
Anyway, that's her. All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out. I had a really good time. And yeah, I'll report back on how I do. Yeah, I was going to have to say, there is a problem with these type of streams, Doc, too, and that is Now I really want pizza. But I am gonna make pizza. Just not right this second. Right this second, I'm going the fuck to bed.